thumbs up.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Beautiful printing.
Long time town meeting attendee. That's all I know. Welcome, everyone. This is the March 19th, 2014 meeting of the Norfolk Advisory Committee. As we have a quorum and it's past our appointed time, I'll call the meeting to order. Our agenda tonight is to have an initial review of the warrant, along with some other administrative issues, but we do have some petitioner articles this year. And we have the petitioner and assorted other folks here that are interested in speaking to these group of articles. So we're going to open the meeting with a discussion of these articles, and if those who wish to speak would identify themselves. Mr. Diamond?
84 Seekonk Street.
Yeah, into the mic, please.
Peter Diamond, 84 Seekonk Street. I'm the petitioner on the 5 articles in front of you tonight.
Righty.
Here to answer your questions.
I think if you could just start by explaining, I at least have 2 questions. I'm sure there will be others, and the 2 are, why by petition instead of the process we're used to seeing? And secondly, pardon me? These are Articles 27, 28, 29.
Have you seen a copy of the
30.
I haven't seen a copy of.
You don't have the actual.
I don't have a copy of what you're discussing as far as number 27.
These are the 5. All 5 of these articles are yours?
27 through 28, 29,
I think you should just give them a second.
30, and 31. They are mine, yes.
Yeah, so whether you want to tackle them individually or as a group, I think
Well,
the purpose in general of them.
we could start on Article 27, which is a petition to change some of the wording in Section I-4A11, residential density. If you take a look at the way I've underlined some of the changes, I've added or entire PMLD. I feel that's necessary to add that language to I-4A11. We have a particular development in town that they're trying to get special permit for more than 16 bedrooms on a single lot, and it's currently transpiring into being developed as a PMLD. And without that verbiage, PMLD and I-4A11, they don't have to ask for a special permit in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the PMLD. They go directly to the Planning Board, and I feel the Zoning Board of Appeals should have the right to review a PMLD also, in addition to a single lot. Does everybody follow me with regard to that?
The concern, if I understand you, is that the PMLD will otherwise not be subjected to the same constraints as...
Under I-4A11, it is not. That is correct.
And PMLD is, I forget what's the
Planned
size?
multi-lot development?
But the size above a certain size, and I don't remember what that certain size is.
No, I don't have the answer to that. A PMLD, I believe, has to be a lot that's 80,000 square feet or more without looking up.
I knew there was some,
Yeah,
it
it
was
has to
fairly
be,
large.
a lot has to be larger than 80,000 square feet, I believe, to be divided into a multi-lot development. And as far as Article 27, I-4A11, the other underlined change I added to it is just to clarify who the special permit authority is by adding the Zoning Board of Appeals. It was open-ended before, where it just ended with special permit. But if you look through the zoning bylaws, the special permit granting authority is the ZBA. But by adding this verbiage to I-4A11, it's kind of points it out right here in I-4A11. So I felt that it was necessary that by Zoning Board of Appeals be added to I-4A11. And that's the scope of my petition with support from residents around the town. Obviously, to get this on the warrant, I needed support to submit this in front of the board here for the warrant. Is there any questions regarding the reasoning for the PMLD and then the Zoning Board of Appeals changes to this article?
I might get to the reasoning eventually, but first some basic questions. So is the Zoning Board of Appeals the only entity that can grant a special permit? And that's why it
the
was
planning
blank?
board can grant special permit under some of the zoning bylaws. In certain situations, I don't have a particular,
And is it not clear who's granting the special permit in this particular section because it's a subsection of other sections, and maybe earlier on in the zoning bylaws itself, or not in our zoning bylaws, it does say under this section who's the special permitting entity?
it says in the zoning bylaws, sorry, not prepared with the exact section, but in definitions, I believe the permit granting authority is the Zoning Board of Appeals, unless otherwise noted within the zoning bylaws.
All right, so then it seems
the
kind of
planning board
it seems
can be-
kind of redundant to add that language then here.
Well,
Or
actually, it's not.
confusing because if in other places you have to indicate who's the granting authority, and in those cases it does indicate, and then by default it's the ZBA otherwise.
Yeah, I
Put the
follow you,
ZBA
but
here.
there was a meeting recently where there was some discussion because nobody was sure who the permit granting authority was during the meeting with regard to I-4A11. So I felt it necessary to add that.
Okay.
That
I just wouldn't want to
kind of
cause
points
greater
it out right there.
confusion
This
across
ends the
broader-
confusion right there.
No. Relative to this section it does, but then does this add confusion to the rest of the zoning bylaws by making a special reference to the Zoning Board of Appeals here, where in other cases there isn't a reference to them? That's all. That was my question on that one. And then, what's the practicality of the additional language?
Or PMLD.
Or entire PMLD? Like, give an example. I'm not real clear one way or the other. So it says you can't exceed 16 bedrooms for a single lot.
Yeah, well, it
So
doesn't
what
say
would
you.
this, what would this language
Well, if you had a single lot. that
broaden it
was-
to?
If you had a single lot that was 200,000 square feet, right? If you had a 200,000
Yeah,
square
so
foot,
like a 5-acre lot,
if you had a
yeah,
5-acre lot, you could only put 16 bedrooms on it,
okay.
unless you divided it into a planned multi-lot development. Then you could put 16 bedrooms on each lot. So if you take a 5-acre lot and dice it up into 3 lots, then you can put 16 bedrooms on each lot, 16 times 3, and therefore you're exceeding the 16 bedrooms with that strategy.
Are there other areas of the zoning bylaws?
Yes,
that
there is.
restrict?
Yeah, there is a
density other
PMLD
than
reference
just a broad-
in K. There's a PMLD reference similar to this in section K. And that's in K7A. K7A references an entire PMLD.
And what's that section relate to?
Age-restricted dwellings shall not exceed 2 bedrooms per dwelling unit and shall not exceed a ratio of 4 units per acre or single lot or entire PMLD.
This single.
Then if we look at K7B, the verbiage is there again for assisted living facilities. Shall not exceed a density of 16 bedrooms per acre or for single lot or entire PMLD.
One second. Okay, so an acre could have 16 bedrooms on it if it was a single lot. Is that right?
In certain zones, in the B1 zone and in the C zone, I believe you can have.
But in the zones we're talking about here, basically.
In the zones we're talking about, you can have 16 bedrooms by as-of-right zoning, unless by special permit
On
on a single lot.
a single lot, which could be an acre.
I
Isn't
can't
it
clarify
30,000
that.
square feet? I remember 30,000 square feet somewhere. I don't know if that's applicable here. Yeah,
That's considered a lot,
that's a lot.
or a minimum lot size?
So conceivably, there could be 16 bedrooms on a 30,000 square foot lot? As things stand right now, I mean?
I don't know of any lots that are under 30,000 square feet that are in the zone that would allow 16 bedrooms.
But my question is that what the language allows, subject to whatever? I mean, I know there might be drainage and all those kinds of considerations, but
Are we referring I-4A11 still?
I'm referring to this, to the
The
word single
PMLD?
lot, yeah, in A11. That if there were a 30,000 square foot lot, or an acre, 40,000, that conceivably, if all other conditions were met, it could have 16
Could have
bedrooms
16
on it.
bedrooms. I would agree with that.
Okay. So what this would do would be to put that same 16-bedroom restriction on a PMLD, which could be anything above 80,000, right? It could be 10 acres?
Well, to subdivide a PMLD, I believe you have to have the 80,000 square feet to begin with.
At least
To
that, but
create a
it could go up from
PMLD.
there.
So I'm not quite sure I follow the question.
Where I'm getting at is that if you can allow 16 bedrooms on an acre, and that's okay currently, and if a PMLD could be 5 acres, let's say, is it reasonable to put the same 16-bedroom restriction on that much larger lot, which is what it seems to me this language is doing? If I understand it correctly, which I may well not.
Maybe, and that kind of leads to a similar question, which may, and kind of, you know, what's the purpose of adding this language?
The PMLD,
Yes.
as I explained earlier, you could take a 5-acre lot that would be restricted to 16 bedrooms and subdivide it into multiple lots and put 16 bedrooms on each lot, thereby exceeding the 16 bedrooms on the single lot that you began with.
So the concern is that the PMLD format would provide a huge jump in density that you wouldn't be able to otherwise accomplish.
Right.
And this takes out that loophole from your perspective.
Well, it puts it up for special permit still.
So it's still possible, right?
Still possible. It doesn't take away the possibility. It just puts it in review of the ZBA.
So your goal is to accomplish that, but
Right.
also make sure that in all cases, the zoning board of appeals is the authority.
Permit granting authority. And the zoning board of appeals is the permit granting authority according to definition in the front. But I just felt by adding this verbiage to this article, it clarifies it.
Because you've
One
heard that
step-
interpreted differently. Some people
I've
have
seen
said
some
that-
confusion on it, exactly.
Well, plenty of people have confusion on lots of aspects of the zoning laws. I'm not necessarily sure that makes it any less ambiguous in its actual legality.
Okay.
Angela?
Just in terms of, it sounds like there are several articles that you had submitted altogether.
Okay.
Can we back up for a minute and just talk about what they are, what the intent is, or what land we're talking about, to add some context to the discussion? That would be helpful for me.
Most of these articles are in the downtown B1 district, which is section I of the zoning bylaws. And I'm concerned about high-density development And these petitions in front of you, which will go in front of the town for vote, hopefully will not stop it, but make it more restrictive, slow things down a little bit, so we can take a step back and see what's really happening. I believe a lot of this zoning that I'm trying to have the town vote on was put into place without the town understanding what could actually be done with it. We have a proposed for 50 houses on less than 10 acres in the downtown, outside the B1 district core right now. The 50 houses in a very high density residential development. And I don't feel that that's something the town needs in the downtown B1 business district. And I have support from a lot of people in town that I've discussed this with, that they don't really want that for our downtown also. So most of these articles I've submitted address that in some way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're just working through the numbers. 50 houses on 10 acres, that's 400,000 square feet, more or less. That's 8,000 square feet per unit. And what are you anticipating the number of bedrooms in each of those units to
I was
be?
only allowed to have 2 bedrooms.
So 2 bedrooms.
So if there was 50 houses, that's 100 bedrooms on
On
2
10
lots. So that's 100 bedrooms, which is 3 times.
It's only 10 per acre, as opposed to 16 per,
Well, it isn't per acre, it's per lot.
well, if
So-
you were saying a 10 acre lot, right?
That's
what you're talking about.
One that's being proposed right now.
And that's the one with 50 houses and 100, therefore 100 bedrooms.
100 bedrooms.
So 100 bedrooms divided by 10 acres is 10 bedrooms per lot, per acre.
No, I wouldn't look at it that way.
And
There's only
currently
2
you're allowed
lots.
16 per 30,000.
Excuse me?
Currently, you can have 16 bedrooms on a 30,000 square foot lot. The density you're worried about is 10 bedrooms on a 40,000 lot. So it's less dense considerably than the allowed density on an individual lot.
I see your point.
So if 16 on a 30,000 square foot lot is not high density, I'm having a hard time seeing how 10 on a 40,000 lot is high density. In any event, that's just my,
Okay.
a little arithmetic take on it.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Chipman wanted to make a comment. Is it,
That's fine with me.
okay, Peter?
Hi, Peter Chipman. I'd prefer to digest these articles one at a time because they're varied and all over the place. Some are specific to zoning changes, which are arcane at best to the people that aren't regularly in this, and some are just straight flat-out spot zoning changes that were proposed. So I just soon take Article 27 initially. The language correction in IA 411, and again, the relevance of Section K actually has no relevance in this conversation because it's a completely different district. For the sake of conversation, this petition article is strictly downtown B1, inside and outside the business core. So that's what that's relevant to. That is, well, whether knowing or unknowingly, back in May of 2010, you would, as an advisory board, I guess, wasn't sure about what you were recommending to town meeting when you made these changes. And again, followed up 2 years later when you expanded that to yet another parcel right across the train tracks. I am totally confident you knew what you were doing at that time. So the idea that the town didn't understand is questionable at best. Adding the PMLD into this language takes away what planning multi-lot development is actually all about. It is a planning tool. It is what created this downtown here be able to shape and size different lots in order to make sense to build out different areas. It's not a zoning tool, it's a planning tool. And built into that was also the considerable amount of Downtown Development Committee activity when we made a big show, had a nice presentation on what we could build out in the center of town. So if you want to start restricting, what amounts to is a lot of work by the not only zoning bylaw study committee, economic development committee, master plan. That's what you will be undoing because this is a planning tool. That's all I can really say about IA 411 right now.
I had a question.
Yes.
So to me, and I may be very simplistic about this, I agree with your arcane comment. So this seems to accomplish two things. One is the PMLD aspect, but the other is the Zoning Board of Appeals explicit mention such that they couldn't be bypassed. Can you speak to that portion?
When you say being bypassed, I'm not sure what you mean.
If I understood correctly, there was the concern that the way that the language stands now, folks could go straight to the planning board and get things approved without the ZBA involvement, which is why ZBA is included in this language and underlined.
This is lumping together two separate functions that shouldn't be lumped together.
So as it stands today, in order to build something under I4A11, would the zoning board be consulted and have to be give its approval or not?
The building commissioners ruled on that several times.
Identify yourself, please.
Bob Nicodemus, Economic Development Committee. The building commissioners ruled on this on about 8 different times that word, the zoning board of appeals, should have been there, but he recognizes that this particular zoning article is the jurisdiction of the zoning board of appeals.
Okay. Thank you.
Unamended.
Thank you. That was my question.
So can I? I'm sorry.
Angela, yes, please.
So if the spirit of this of these words is to have the ZBA give approval for the entire PMLD, what would inserting this language?
Spirit of this of this article, as it exists today, does not include entire PMLD.
Right.
So that's the
That's
part
what
that would
he
be.
is adding to it.
Okay.
That's the second aspect.
And it changes a lot of other trickle-down functions of planning as well as development considerations that the planning board does in fact consider.
The purpose of a PMLD, as I understand it, is to create a situation where things can be done on a large lot that might not, that there's discretion that the planning board has that might not otherwise have if they strictly followed the otherwise what the zoning requirements were for that particular piece of property. Is that a fair or more or less fair statement?
The planning board is the planned multi-lot development special permit granting authority. It's not something that is supposed to be purely vested in the ZBA as all special permits. As a matter of fact, we've changed zoning over the last few years to correct that.
So then the PMLD would not necessarily require the ZBA approval. It can get, is that what you're saying?
No, it's a planning item, so therefore it would not require ZBA approval.
Okay.
A planned
So I think
multi-lot
that's
development is a
that was the
planning item.
question posed earlier. Okay, thank you.
I mean, you're rewriting zoning in a crucial district on the fly of a petition, bypassing the zoning bylaw study committee, bypassing any other study that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Charlie? Yes.
Mr. Diamond, have you gotten the input from the ZBA, the planning board, or the zoning bylaw study committee?
I have
in
not.
the process of developing this?
I did not.
I just make the observation that the advisory board has recommended and the town has approved a process by which the downtown business district development there would be encouraged. In fact, that's been one of the themes that we have. This is an opportunity to test that, whether or not that town's eagerness is still, enthusiasm is still there for that. But the idea behind a sweeping range of changes to the zoning process has been to encourage development in the downtown district. So.
Could I ask a question about the comment you just made? You said downtown development in the B1 district. Was the intention for development in the downtown to be strictly residential? Because that's some of the zoning I'm addressing here, is try to curb residential development in the downtown business district. We have plenty of residential development going on in town. We have almost 250 new houses coming on the books and more to come. And I thought that maybe we could save the downtown business district for other than residential dwellings. That's my position on that, just as a comment.
Mr. Shipman.
As you know, going back to May 2010, because you guys recommended it, or many of you anyways, this was specifically changed to allow dense housing without the need for the first floor, mixed use, commercial, retail, whatever, as a consideration on the outside the business core. The idea was to hopefully create the walkable community to support the commercial district, which we all know realistically is not going to be created in front of Three Ponds, or behind Three Ponds, excuse me. It's going to be in the core, which is exactly where we put it. So that was the reason for you folks recommending it and it passing not once, but twice in 2 years at town meeting. If you want to basically abandon the hopes of putting some doorways downtown to support anything other than empty lots or empty buildings, act accordingly, that's fine.
I might mention, I think you give us a little bit too much power when it comes to the responsibility for implementing these things that have happened.
However, you do have a
in the past,
recommendation to
because we
town
do-
meeting, and I think
we-
it holds quite a
We get
bit of
input
sway.
from, obviously, the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as the Bylaw Study Commission, Planning Board. They're our experts, we rely on them, and yes, as a general rule, I'd say we find what they suggest reasonable, and we do endorse them.
And I wish these articles had that chance to go through that process.
As I understand, petitioner articles will appear on the warrant, and will, you know,
It's Mass
discussion
General
and
law,
debate
I
will happen.
understand that.
So, but, I mean, I have to say, I am concerned about the process of having zoning changes made by petition, just without the normal review process by those who are the experts in the area and who have been involved in the planning from the big picture standpoint. This seems specifically targeted at a desire to curb residential densities to an extent that would actually lower residential densities compared to what's allowed on a single lot. And I'm not quite sure I understand why that's a good thing.
As of right, zoning allows 16 bedrooms per lot. And at 2 recent town meetings, there were articles brought in front of town meetings to change that and up that from 16 bedrooms to more than 32. And both times, the people voted against that change. I just want to make that comment, that the people in the town do not want more than 16 bedrooms per lot. They don't want that density.
Per
I know
lot.
the boards have worked hard to make these changes, to bring this in, but I believe the majority of the town people aren't ready for it.
Seems like a leap of faith there, what you just said.
Well,
What is it? Sorry.
Well, I don't know, unless you had the majority of the town sign your petition, there's no way you can know if it's the majority of the town
I'm discussing the 16 bedrooms, twice a town
per
meeting.
lot.
Twice a town meeting,
Yes.
the people did not want a density more than that.
Yes.
So that's my comment. Thank you.
Arlie, you
What would be the process under current law for the approval, the review and approval of this development?
More than 16 bedrooms?
as it now stands? I guess there's a specific development that you have in mind as you
Right
think about
now, the
this.
process is to go for special permit under I-4A11 for more than 16 bedrooms. It says except by special permit. So as of right zoning gives you 16 bedrooms unless you get granted a special permit by the ZBA.
And as I understand it, this particular development you have in mind is going on under not a single lot,
They
but
were.
entire PMLD approach. Is
They,
that's a
their
different
first approach
track?
was their next conceptual plan will incorporate a PMLD,
Okay.
thereby circumventing the ZBA and going directly to the planning board.
And just,
And that's why I added the PMLD.
okay. And so the process now will be under the PMLD, and I don't know if you're the necessarily the right person to answer this, so if there's someone else that is better suited, that's fine. But now this PMLD goes where?
Planning board.
Into the planning board. And the planning board is charged with reviewing the suitability of the proposal relative to the plans and envisions as expressed by the
There's a
town.
whole laundry list of conditions they review.
Is it your concern that the planning board
Is a little more lenient.
is more lenient than the zoning board of appeals? So
I
they'll-
feel that way, and I'm not 100% sure that is, but, you know, before you would have to get, correct me if I'm wrong, you would need variances to do certain things like this.
I have the general impression that development is always a challenge in the town of Norfolk, so I don't
Yeah.
know which particular channel is more or less
Rigorous, yeah.
Rigorous, yeah.
So now everything's by special permit.
Yeah, okay. So this will, if nothing is changed, this development will be reviewed by the planning board as the next step, unless
If it's
this,
a PMLD.
if it's,
If
as you
this-
now understand the
If this
intent.
change is not accepted by the townspeople,
Yeah,
it will go back
okay.
to,
So this
subject
will-
to just review by the planning board.
Did you want to?
Yeah, I'd like to comment. In answer to your direct questions, there are two routes that you can go when you're proposing developments. One was as a single lot, looking for a special permit from the ZBA to exceed 16 bedrooms. Also, you can go through a PMLD, which allows, and has been a longstanding practice, and dimensions, everything else in the existing zoning bylaw for outside the business core, to create lots, and therefore subject to those corresponding zonings, in this case, 16 bedrooms per lot. The lots have been in place, the lot sizes have been in place, the ability for the planning board to use this tool has been in place for quite some time. The idea of filing this as a zoning petition, or more importantly, as a NIMBY petition, I think, because he basically has stated that it's something to stop an existing development. One, I think is folly to create your zoning based on that. Two, the existing applicants are filed. They're gonna hear this under the old bylaw anyways. So changing zoning after the horse has run out of the barn, if that's your intention, that's crazy. And that's also the reason why zoning should not go through a petition process.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
I thought I understood, but now maybe I don't. So you said there's two paths. It's a regular lot, and therefore we need a special permit and go through the ZBA, or it's a PMLD, we'll go to
Which
the
is
planning
also a
board.
special permit, right?
Right, but does the PMLD, don't they have to go back to the ZBA, or is that okay, so they can in fact bypass the zoning board?
And in many cases, the reason why the special permit granting authority in several cases has been changed is to help promote development based on the restrictions that either a special permit or a variance has to go through. These were deliberate changes recommended by you, forwarded by the Zoning Bylaw Study Committee and other boards over the years to correct our zoning. This is a step backwards, and it's totally contrary to where we wanted to bring our downtown.
Mr. Chairman? Was the idea at some future date to bring the planning board or ask the planning board or zoning board of appeals to opine on this before us? Is that, would that be another step?
I was I was curious as to whether they had an opinion or had reviewed this or seen this, but
You're taking a planning tool away from the planning board.
as things stand right now, no, this is our first meeting, and it's the petitioner was able to make an appearance, so we're just kind of leaping into it cold.
Yep.
But yeah, I would certainly hope that we would
Some
get
future-
further input
Okay.
aside from what we get tonight.
And I would assume that input would include both the ZBA and the planning board, since there appears to be some concern about treatment being different depending upon how one,
Either at the meeting or indirectly
what
and
I'm saying.
report back.
that seems to be one of the heart of the concerns, is that.
I think we understand Article 27.
Yep.
And can we move along then to the remaining articles?
Okay, let's discuss Article 28. Article 28 on the warrant, to see if the town will vote to remove Section I-7A1 of the zoning bylaws. Section I-7A1 now allows by special permit by the planning board residential dwellings in the B1 outside the business core district at a density of not less than 4 units per lot and not more than 1 unit per 5,000 square feet of land. Once again, as I stated earlier, I feel that there's plenty of residential development within the town outside of the B1 business district. And this section I-7A11 allows residential dwellings in the B1 downtown business district. So I feel that the downtown should be saved for other development outside of residential dwellings. And to further expand on that, this I-7A1 allows an extreme density of 1 unit per 5,000 square feet. I think if we do the calculation, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me.
Well, if there are 2 bedrooms, then that would be 12 per 30,000 square foot lot. Which is, again, less than the 16 that is maximally permitted right now.
If you take a particular 5-acre land with, what's that, 225,000 square feet,
Roughly.
what's that equal about?
7 lots plus a,
Well,
7
on
plus
one
11
lot,
lots.
by special permit, you could allow up to 88 units, I believe.
7 times 16 is 112. That would be 112 bedrooms on your lot, which I've now lost track of what size it is, but
It's 40-something.
in any event, huh?
No, it'd be 40-something.
Would it be 46?
16
If you said
per-
a 5-acre lot, which is
Yes.
like 220,000 square feet, so you're
That's
basically-
17,000 square
it's
foot
220
lots.
divided by 5, which is like 44.
44. So that would allow 44 units on a 5-acre lot. That's
Which is
extremely...
88 bedrooms,
Yeah, so that's well over the 16 bedrooms again. So
but
once again, by special permit,
But
that allows the
you've
density.
got 5, the equivalent of 5. You're allowed 16 on 30,000 square feet.
Right.
And you're talking about
would be
less.
112.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, your density, the densities that you're proposing here are much lower
Right.
than what's being
Already allowed.
allowed already based on a 30,000 square foot lot. So it seems like the idea here is not so much to prevent higher density as it is to cause lower density.
Well, once again, it's to try to curb the residential dwellings in the downtown business district. We have plenty of residential dwellings coming into town. It's going to strain our water services, it's going to strain our schools, fire, police, everything across the board. So
And
that's
so
the reason.
this particular one, is there a reason you didn't go through the process of approaching the planning board, the ZBA, the zoning bylaw study committee?
Regarding these articles?
Yes. Like, why are you're
probably-
circumventing our normal bylaw changes for zoning.
Didn't realize that I should go through those channels.
I don't know, that's what we've done at
That's-
the last 10 town meetings, so I'm sure you've noticed that they all seem to come from one of those
No, I'm sorry, I
groups. Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean,
the
you know,
bylaw
this is
study
not,
committee, they usually, that's, their function is to review existing zoning
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, and ID problems in it and rewrite it. There are plenty of them that are not written effectively and that they don't do what they were intended to do.
Okay.
And as a former member of the board, of that board, that's what we do, and we would go, that's really, you should talk to them first, because they're very knowledgeable on how it should be written.
Mhm.
Because even though what you're trying to ask, what you're trying, the point that you're trying to get to with these,
Okay.
if it's not done the right way, it creates long-term problems within the town.
Okay.
So, it looks easy that you're just taking that out, but there's an effect that, you know, it snowballs down the line if it's not done, if they don't look at everything else that this affects. That's, you know, that's the problem with, like, quick zoning changes like that.
Okay.
You know, it goes a lot deeper than just taking out the ZBA out of that, because there might be another relative function of it within that.
Well,
you
my
know.
only comment about this particular zoning article that allows an extreme density of residential dwellings, once again, in our downtown B1 business district. And if
But I
quite a
think that
few
it's
people
been,
that I talk to are not comfortable with this.
but I think that the zoning bylaw study committee would be the ones to look into the history and the spirit of the zoning of this article when it was first put in.
I
And to
understand.
make sure that, the spirit of that and the intent of that is not circumvented.
Okay.
All right, because at some point
Sure.
it was voted on by the town people and put in there.
This
So-
was?
Well, if it's, yeah, if it's a zoning bylaw, then it was voted on.
Hmm.
So, and there was a reason, and they would be the people to make sure that we are not circumventing
Mhm.
the intent of it.
Okay.
Pardon me? Yes, go ahead.
I find it a little disingenuous that these articles, you didn't realize this, the process, given the fact that I think on a part-time basis, he works out of the zoning enforcement officer's office, who also was an ex officio member of zoning bylaw study committee. I just didn't know if that was basically to make some kind of statement that he didn't have any feedback or background from the building inspector, zoning enforcement officer. Just something for the record. He's an assistant wiring inspector in town, so therefore, I don't know if he chose to discuss this with the zoning enforcement officer before putting the article together. Only he can tell you that.
I would like to keep the discussion of this to the substance of the articles themselves. They are before us by whatever process. We do have to review them, and we do have to make a decision. They will go to town meeting, so I think how they got here, why they got here, you know, we do need to respond to them as they appear before us.
Understood.
Yeah, I don't think there was any suggestion that there was anything inappropriate about submitting a petition or anything. I mean, so often the advisory board gives input in the process, and sometimes the process adjusts along the way, but I think
question
I
went
think
to
it's
know
great
knowledge
that
of the
you
process,
brought
that's
something,
all.
your concerns forward, and we have a chance to discuss. I think that's one of the reasons we're here. So it's certainly appreciated, but if things can be done, you know, if there's an opportunity for improvement, we ought to take a look at it. But I do think there are many interested parties who have invested substantial time in trying to optimize the current zoning, so we'd certainly get their input as well. But I think what you've done is completely appropriate and encouraging, frankly.
Just speaking logistics, I'm curious, is there time between now and when we have to issue our recommendation to then get an opinion from the zoning bylaw committee, or is that?
No, I believe that they would be able to look at it. It would,
Okay.
yes, something like this, especially in relation to the advisory board articles that they receive. We've
Okay.
had them given to us before.
Now, would this push other things down and this just goes to the front of the line, or, I'm just hoping we.
No, they're very knowledgeable
good.
on it. It would not, no, I think it would be something that they're probably aware of at some level
Okay.
anyway, if somebody has
That's great.
an
I'm
interest in
glad we
taking
could
it.
still do that. Okay, thank you.
I think we're understanding Article 28? Yes?
Do you have any further questions?
Well, we have the other three, which are specific parcels, and these are your petitions as well?
29, 30.
And 31? Specific parcels being added to the
Residential.
R1 or RI, as the case may be, and R2 districts?
Right,
Is
Article
this a
29.
reclassification of these?
Article 29, to see if the town will vote to amend the Norfolk zoning map by adding the following parcel to the R1 residential zone. And that particular parcel is on map 14, block 49, lot 11. Or take action relative thereto. This particular lot had been residential prior to the last town meeting. The last town meeting, there was a vote that changed it from residential to the B1 district. And I watched the meeting, and the vote was very close. I felt that there should have been a count on that particular vote that night. I think there was strong opposition to it.
Was that the last town meeting?
Yes, it was last May, I believe.
Oh, so not the last one, the one
And-
before
Two town
that.
meetings ago.
And it was on the November warrant also, and the fall town meeting, where it was voted against. Remember, I don't know if you recall, that was rejected. There was some people that didn't want that to happen, and then it was brought in front of town meeting again, and it got by, and I watched the meeting, and I felt there should have been a count, so.
So it was denied a year ago in November,
was-
allowed in May, and then not, it was not part of this recent,
It was
Fall.
not part of the fall, exactly. So it was in November special town meeting, and then the May 13 regular town meeting.
Okay, this is the
This lot.
property that's behind the,
Train tracks.
yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. That one
This-
again.
This property
Won't go away.
is a residential property before it was converted into the downtown B1 business district.
All
And
right,
the reason I brought this forward is I felt that it should be voted on again. I think, give the people of the town the chance one more time to vote on this. Questions?
we all remember these discussions, I
Right.
trust, in this
I
particular
do.
property, yes.
I have
Okay.
questions. I don't know if they're appropriate or not. I mean, I'm curious, has something happened with this lot between then and now? I mean, purchases, permits granted?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. I just hate to change the rules with something already in process, but.
So Articles 30 and 31, I gather, are similar in nature. Could you just tell us where if that's correct, can you just tell us which properties you're talking about here?
Article 30 references property on map 14, block 56, lot 7.
Which is
Off
where?
the-
And lot,
What site to go to?
excuse me,
Where is that?
that's on Main Street.
See if I can-
And Article 31 is a neighboring lot on map 14, block 56, lot 8. Right now, these are residential dwellings on these lots. And
Now, these are not in
What are they
this.
currently zoned?
Yeah.
they're currently in the B1 outside the business core.
And how long have they been in the B1?
Not quite sure how long.
Always? Always? Not always? 3 or 4 years?
And where are these on
I have
Main
all
Street?
mine.
Does anyone- Where on Main
Yeah, which
Street
lots are they on Main Street? Just
They're down by the old town hall,
Oh,
left or right?
facing the town
If
hall
I'm
to the
facing it.
left.
Left of the
Lots
old town
behind the
hall.
pond. On one lot, there's a horse farm, beautiful horse farm. Dwelling that's been there for over 50 years, and same on the other lot. There's been a residential property way back to the 30s or 20s. And I feel the character of Norfolk as you come down Main Street is all residential, and I feel that myself and a lot of people that supported me with this petition would like to keep it that way. So I've asked for these articles to be on the warrant for the town people to vote on this.
So these are currently
Currently residential use,
single-family residence use?
that's the way they're used.
And
they're
the
in
fear
B1.
is that if ownership changes hands or whatever, that those lots can then be developed
Right.
to a high, to
Under the B1
a, whatever
standards.
densities are allowed under the
Under
terms
the
of
B1
the B1
standards.
zoning.
Yes.
So this is a preventative measure in effect.
Okay.
Understood. Mr. Shipman?
I think the first article that you referenced was Article 29. That's a 6.5 acre parcel across the tracks at Paul Kelly's house that needs to be zoned.
Yep.
30 and 31 is the development in question, 108 and 106 Main Street, respectively. In answer to your question and for clarification, the B1 district runs all the way from Boardman Street to the Old Town Hall. Okay, it splits in the middle to the right of Dunkin' Donuts to be B1 outside the business core, and then the business core. However, that entire district along Main Street on that side of the street is all B1. So what the proponent or the petitioner is proposing is to take 2 lots out of the middle, out of the B1 district, make them residential, yet keep the existing Old Town Hall, a couple other, including his family's property in the B1 district. I think that's a little suspect in hopscotch zoning like that. You know, we'll have to go for an opinion.
I think, you know, clearly we'll need to get some further input from the planning board, the zoning bylaw study committee on these, but I think we do understand now what the substance is.
Why didn't you propose everything to the right of those 2 properties be residential? Why just those 2?
Those 2 properties there,
Yes.
well, that was a start. There could be others that I could be working on down the road. I just started here. And, you know, we'll see how the response is at town meeting, how the people feel in the town
I
regarding.
guess my thought would have been if you were going to start, why wouldn't you start at the end and work in, as
I don't
opposed to
quite-
in the middle?
I don't quite follow you.
Well,
In my
usually you want
opinion,
zoning to be continuous or
this is the-
contiguous.
This is the end of the B1 down Main Street, except for
Well,
the town hall.
if you're left of the town hall, okay, so everything
for the
right of the
town
town hall
hall.
is residential?
Everything else is residential as far as I know.
Okay.
Across the street and past the town hall is residential, then we get into St. Jude's. And residential all the way down to the correctional facility as far as I know.
So we left the town hall because that doesn't have residential currently?
Actually, I didn't give any thought to the town hall. The town hall is the town's. I didn't feel it was necessary to change the zoning at this point. I didn't consider that.
Any other questions?
I had one procedural question, which we may not know the answer to. Let's say that this all goes, well, this will go forward and it'll be discussed at town meeting. Could somebody offer a floor amendment to then add or subtract lots to this while we're discussing it at the meeting? I know under certain circumstances, something counts as an expansion, you can't do it, because it changes the character of the article too much, such that nobody had advance notice.
I mean, you know, that would be the call of the moderator with legal counsel, but I would have to believe that literally adding something would go outside the scope.
Like if somebody wants to add a parcel or change 16 to 32, or just make a number go up or down, I'm just wondering how.
We've got more town meetings coming up.
Cannot be amended on the floor.
There's also a public hearing generally required of zoning
The planning board.
zoning bylaws, and that,
Right.
even though these are by petitioner, will that still be a
It's a
requirement?
zoning change, all of them have to be.
Right.
It was set last night by the planning board for April 29th.
Oh, good.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? Anything anybody else would
Can I make
like to
one
add?
last comment on these zoning changes?
Sure.
Since my family is directly affected by the spot zoning. The fact that if you're that concerned about the residential, development and keeping it residential, I don't understand why, at the start of the B1 outside the business core district, which is where his family owns, he didn't start there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Diamond, anything further you'd like to add?
We can work on that in the future once again.
All righty, well, we appreciate everybody coming and giving us input, because I have to say, when the meeting started, I had no clue what any of this is about, and now I do.
No, it's very
I do understand
Thank you, thank
what,
you.
what's what here. Thank you very much.
If there's any further questions,
I think there's
sorry.
call me
a
back.
gallery here.
Okay. We have,
Different topic, that's
Oh,
Point of question or point of order, if you will.
okay,
nothing to do with these articles.
oh.
all right, then, go ahead.
Zoning bylaw study committee members.
Yes.
The selectmen last night agreed to reincorporate a zoning article into the town warrant, and I'm not sure that it's on your warrant. That
It
was,
is.
is it? Okay.
Yes, we got it on.
Okay.
Which is that, Susan?
It's the Article 35, I'm sorry, Article 36, the medical marijuana treatment centers.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't seen it, and that's the question, because I was told they had one article, and there's actually two.
Two. Yeah, 35 and 36.
35 and 36, looks like they're both.
Okay, fine.
Or anything more from Mr. Diamond? Yeah.
Mr. Diamond, I think if you were,
Yeah, I just ended with a comment, if you need me to come back for any further questions, that's soon I'll.
Okay.
I know you have a lot of meetings looking forward.
okay, we will definitely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our only question for you folks on the warrant was, it may be too late and it's not a critical issue, but the categories of the zoning articles for the C1 district and the purpose issue are different letters. One's a J and one's an F, and we didn't know whether it mattered whether we had the correct alphabet orientation or not, so that was the only thought.
Okay.
But we can leave it as far as we're concerned, because it is two separate articles, and that's exactly as we had it written.
Okay.
Are you,
And the purpose of putting this back on the warrant and going in front of the selectmen to urge them to do that is that the medical marijuana moratorium ends June 30th. And although the selectmen initially preferred to deal all zoning articles in the fall, that would leave the town vulnerable to someone attempting to come in and appeal to have a location somewhere other than where we might not want it. And so we said, gee, it's really not worth the risk. Let's put this article, which, by the way, was on the warrant when we initially created the moratorium. We had two on the warrant at the time, this one and the moratorium. And we passed the moratorium and IP'd this fellow. And since the moratorium expires, we have a vulnerable period in the town between June 30th and the next fall town meeting when we could enact something similar to this. And we urged them not to put the town in that vulnerable position, and they agreed. And so that's why they put this back on the warrant.
Okay.
I'm not sure I quite understood the comment about the section lettering there, Mr. Nicodemus.
It's just the two letters. The C1 district is section J in zoning, and the definition is section F. We didn't know whether we needed to arrange them alphabetically or not.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't matter because they're two separate articles, and so that's the only reason I mentioned it.
Okay. It's hard to imagine one passing without the other.
Right.
Anyway, so, yes, thank you very much.
Are we-
Well, actually, Arlie, sorry.
Are we going to discuss these articles?
Well, since you're here, if you don't mind, yes, that's a very good point.
Then you don't
Yes,
come back.
I mean, I gather, but we did have the discussion last year, and this is basically the same thing. Is it the same
Yes.
place?
It
that
is,
gonna
it's
be?
down in the C1 district, in the
Shire Drive.
Mr. Chairman, was this on the agenda?
Pardon me?
Was this on the agenda?
Discussion of the warrant articles was
Oh,
on
okay.
the agenda, so,
Okay,
yes, this falls within the agenda.
okay, just wanted to check.
Yeah, last year, the zoning change was to create 4 sub-districts in the C1 district. And this section, it started with where near the old railroad tracks was the C1A section. Then the C1B section is the industrial park, and the C1C district is the district that is between 1A and 115 towards Walpole. And the C1D section is the section that is between Walpole and Foxborough. Off of there.
So just, I do recall there were 2 articles last time.
Yes.
One the moratorium and one the zoning, and we IP'd the zoning because we liked the moratorium better.
Correct.
So two questions for you, if I may. Why did we like the moratorium better? And second question is, if we liked the moratorium then, is it possible to extend the moratorium and maintain the path that the town chose?
It was our understanding that that extension was at its limit and could not be re-extended
Okay.
by state law.
And, okay, I got you. And then the first question, why did we prefer the moratorium to the zoning at that time? I'm sorry, I don't
That's
remember
okay,
that.
because at the time, the state regulations had not been issued, and we were not quite sure whether the language of the article would indeed match the language of the state regulations. Now that they have been issued, we've made sure that the language is compatible.
As I recall, the concern was that if we zoned, then the moratorium might be ineffective.
That was another concern.
Okay, I don't recall it, but
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Somebody raised that point somewhere along the line.
Sometimes I can't remember what I have to bring.
Okay, anybody, any other questions on these two?
So is the new, there's a new medical office building in that, is that in this district then?
No, it's in the C1 district, but not in a sub-district.
Okay,
The C1 district has the so-called on-highway zones, which is 300 feet on each side of 1A and 115. And then behind the on-highway area of the C1 district are the sub-districts A, B, C, and D, which are basically allowing industrial or other non-offensive developments like that.
This is in, maybe a picture would help.
yeah, probably. Do you have one?
I know, but I'll draw one.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you draw one, do we have to tear the board off the wall and put it in the files?
I didn't know that was a whiteboard.
No, one can take
I didn't know it was either.
one's iPhone and go print.
Okay, so that's allowable under.
You're the first person to draw that I've seen.
You can do that?
You can print it and stick it
I
in
can
the-
print it.
Right.
Okay.
Roughly speaking, this is 1A and 115. And here's the new medical building.
Yeah.
As Bob said, there's on-highway zoning and off-highway zoning around, and this is not exact, obviously, it's just representational, but, oh, yeah, okay.
Or something like that.
Or something like that, right. So here's 115, and here's the lights and all that, and here's the little restaurant, and up in here is where we have positioned the adult entertainment district many years ago, and now in the same overlay district, the medical marijuana treatment.
Is that the Shire Park area?
Shire Park is
No,
on
the
the
other
It's
side.
behind Rockies.
Behind where?
Yeah, behind
You know where
Rockies.
is, there's like a little U street back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple of streets that go in here with
Yeah.
industrial.
There's the,
North is to the left on this map, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, the orientation of north is roughly here.
Oh,
Right.
okay, well then. that's what I know.
Walpole's up
Okay.
there.
Yeah, you got the seed company right
Right.
here on the corner.
Right.
There's a new glass company right here.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you, that's helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Other questions? Alrighty, then,
So, yeah, I have sorry.
yes, Harley.
we have two here,
I
35.
can leave this if
Yeah.
that's helpful.
that'd be
Sue,
better.
that would probably,
Thank
yeah,
you.
we'll just,
We're supposed to work in concert
Thank
with
you.
each other.
So your comments were about 35, right? That's what, that's what.
35 and
both
36.
actually, 35 and 36.
His question was about the order of them.
Okay, so what are we doing with 36? Sorry, it seems like much is being stricken from what exists, like everything appears to be stricken.
Yeah.
Ah, you don't have a copy of it, that
He gave it
probably-
back too soon.
Because the moratorium is gone.
Yeah, so we
So
take.
why do we have to change
In
the?
the medical marijuana treatment center, Article 36, what we were doing was eliminating the moratorium and inserting all of the state regulations that have now established how and when and so forth such a facility operates, so that we went and got the implementation programs that were now being controlled by the Public Department of the Department of Public Health, and the regulations of that have all been approved now, and we inserted that as the regulations for control.
Which article does that insertion?
That's under Article 36 at the moment.
All I see is retractions. I don't see anything being inserted in Article 36.
Well, what's left? He doesn't mean what's inserted, he means is this insertion language, or is this what's left?
No, we added this language.
Okay.
So there's,
Everything that's in light above, not crossed out, is new.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
so as a matter of process, it seems like that's a little bit of a strained way of handling this. The moratorium has expired, so the topic, the original intent of this article passed. Why wouldn't you put in a new article, which was whole cloth new? And
Well, we at this time were thinking that the way we've done it in the past is you take an existing article that's there and you show what's being deleted and show what's new in it, and that becomes an understanding of how you're changing the article on town meeting floor, that's all. And we did the same thing up, that was what we've done before, is cross things out, and that's just what we did. We have no problem editing this to be more clear, if that would make it more clear.
But you felt this was more transparent, I guess.
That was all, we were just trying to indicate, in other words, we wrote this, and then the moratorium was inserted into it, and then we wanted to take the moratorium out of it and change the dates of the most recent state regulations. Because that's the dates, that's the regulations we're going by. So that's all it was just to try and bring this up to date with state regulations.
it just strikes me, and I'm sure you know this better than I, that here we had an article that had an expiration date, and we're beyond the expiration date, and
Well,
therefore.
we're not at it, we're not beyond it at town meeting. It's June 30th.
Till June 30th. Right.
So we didn't know what to do about
right.
that.
I see what, yeah, I see.
So better just,
But I mean, we don't have a problem if anybody says it's better to rewrite it, we'd be happy to do it. In fact, I met with our group and said, that's what we were trying to be
Yeah.
here for, and find out if we should send to the selectmen a rewritten version.
I think you have to, I think, I like it the way it is now better because
Yeah.
it addresses the fact that there is a moratorium in existence
Yeah.
instead of writing one that is going to contradict the moratorium
that's-
for a
yeah.
period
Yeah,
of
I
time.
think
I
it's a
think that makes
compelling
sense.
point, yeah.
So that was the logic
Yep.
behind it, that's all.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well,
Just jumped into the zoning stuff.
yeah. Well, okay, now,
we jumped out, we're all done.
You
No.
can have one.
We're all done.
It's like the Briar Patch, once you're in.
okay, we have also with us tonight Bob McGee from the DPW. Patient as always, appreciate it. You have budget numbers for us.
Wow.
The real budget is not, the total budget, I mean, not that this isn't a real budget, but the whole budget for the whole town.
Final budget.
The entire budget is not ready yet.
we'll have Jack here next week to talk about the budget, and also CPC next week. Tonight, we're going to try and blast through as much of everything else as we can. So,
May I make a comment before the budget discussion? I gotta say, the work that you guys did this winter was fantastic. Now I can speak primarily for my street, which was cleaner than it's been in a long time, but it strikes me there was a lot of snow and a lot of good work done to keep the streets of the town clean. So I appreciate all the hard work that must have gone into that. That was an accomplishment.
okay. What would you like to tell us?
Wondering, is it possible to maybe belly up?
Absolutely, yes, certainly. Come right up.
Yes. Maybe does Bob want to have a copy of it?
Actually, I have it right here. Come in this red book.
I like this version though, Bob.
Yeah.
It is easy, I know it. So really, you've got a two-page pass out there. The cover sheet here is basically shows the difference between what we were approved in 214, FY 214, what we're asking for in FY 215. And the front page again is a real combined summary. Very short version. Give you the totals. Second page is a...
One question before we get
Sure.
started. To your knowledge, is this what we're going to see in the town budget next week as well?
I think this changed as early as yesterday. Since I've gone in front of the selectmen, they had a couple of ideas. Spoke with Jack yesterday and made an adjustment to this. I'm not sure if... I don't see why it would change. What I get from Jack that it wouldn't.
But it might.
It might.
Okay.
I can't be more specific about what we're talking about,
Oh,
but we
that's
have, we're starting to appreciate some returns on, like, the solar panels, for instance, and so there may be some rethinking of that, but as far as salaries and the organizational structure and stuff, that's pretty packed.
Okay.
And Bob, relative to that, does your budget here contemplate, besides just shifting resources, but additional resources or fewer resources, or are you anticipating the same headcount? You might deploy them a little differently, but...
Well, it does. It is, as a matter of fact, this budget here came with some planning way back, smartly so. It actually took into account the fall town meeting, where in one division, I'm hoping I'm getting to what you're asking. In one division, we increased the manpower, but at the same time, we took away some contracted services out of expenses, so we try to balance that. Balancing it with expenses wasn't enough, because to get to the point we want to go at lawn care and take care of our own properties where we subbed it out before. It was a 3-year contract, and that contract wasn't enough then, and as time went on and things got added, a new fence or a new task, or a Route 115 was fully landscaped, and then the school comes online, that contract would have probably, if we went out back out to bid, would have came in at another $40,000. So what we try to do is, through the fall town meeting and with your support as well, we went out and bought some new lawn mowers for, I think it was like $80,000. So we got some new pieces sitting at the, or just came in yesterday, at the DPW, and we're now just interviewing for a position to support the budget. So it's not that it's all that complex, but it started well before the fall town meeting.
Okay.
Those are the changes I think that.
And I see that in your grounds shift between expense and salary.
Right.
And then your other one is vehicle maintenance, and we haven't been. I assume that's an output of we haven't been buying many new vehicles, so your maintenance costs are going up, Bob, or is there some special?
What we did here, substantially, there isn't too much of a change in vehicle maintenance, other than, I don't know if you had a chance to view the budget presentation for the DPW with the selectmen, but there was an idea brought forth that we should dedicate money to snow and ice. And for legal reasons, we should expend money from a budget, an approved budget, to repair snow equipment. So what we did was we added $25,000, added a line item to vehicle maintenance for the repair of snow and ice equipment.
Okay.
Before it came out of the snow and ice budget,
Okay.
and there's some thoughts about how you should spend money when it comes to a budget that really has no ceiling. Shouldn't say has no ceiling, but it
I know
allows
what you
you to
mean. Yes.
overexpend because
Yes.
it's unforeseen. So that's really the major change there.
All right. And I see we're making a little ante into the pot on the snow and ice budget itself.
We're trying to create a discipline there because it
Yeah.
very seldom it gets underspent.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate your comment, Ollie, but
This will be up
it got
$50,000.
overspent today. I mean, this year.
Yeah, net.
Yeah,
Oh,
125 number.
Yes. I'm almost afraid to ask about what are we sitting at for this fiscal year for snow and ice? If you don't know offhand, don't worry.
Well, I
but,
was,
yeah.
you know, my old, how about those Red Sox? Change the subject. Over 400,000.
Yeah.
Numbers aren't in, and I hope it doesn't snow next week, you know, but that's what we're talking
In
about.
that ballpark,
In the
yeah.
upper, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
I guess two things. One is what kind of salary escalations are you building into next year? And then the second one is, sounds like you've gone through several iterations of the budget. I'm wondering maybe what you've taken out to get to this point.
Like I just mentioned, the salaries, other than contractual obligations, and those, we have in our union structure we have a COLA increase, and we have a merit increase. It all stays within grade and step, so it's an incentive type thing. I don't know that exists in any other budget in town, but I mean, but there's ceilings on it. You know, so what I'm saying is, so the only increases that you'll see that in salaries are going to be just that, contractual obligations.
So do they average like 4% in aggregate or something like that?
When I think the average is probably 3-point-something% this year, because COLA was like 1.25 cost of living raise, and if you took an average, some of the manpower got you know, anywhere from 1 to 4 was a top scholar, so to speak. But that goes on for so long, and you reach your maximum, and then there you stay unless you transfer, get promoted, or we request a grade step, which is tough to do.
Thank you.
But I think what you were asking, and I may have just answered it again, was that the major escalations in salaries in general was the addition of 1.5 positions in grounds. And we try, again, to wash that cost, but we can't with expenses in grounds. So, to the point, we had $38,000 budgeted for the last 3 years to have a contractor come in and do all the mowing in town. Well, that didn't work out if we never increased the scope of the work, right? So we wanted to take that in-house. We took the 38, we moved it up into salaries, and we added another roughly $25,000 to that. And in expenses, we bought $80,000 worth of equipment. If we didn't do that, and we went out to bid it, that $38,000 would be $60,000. So when you look at it that way, you know, pay me now, pay me later, this is good business. And we keep the work in-house, whereas we had some experiences with the contractor, like, just say, for instance, if it rained 4 days in a row, and we only have 1 day to get the ball fields ready, maybe on a Friday, and we got a massive amount of traffic and games scheduled, and so you're kind of like, you're at the mercy of the contractor, and it's difficult to do those types of things. And you call them back for so many other things, and then you find out that because of that same situation, they'll cut the grass, and maybe you just get it under the wire, but they leave clumps of grass all over the place that you just can't play, and it's an embarrassment. And it's been pointed out to me by our recreation director. So I'm getting along with this.
So it sounds like the increase, in aggregate of the 133,000 is due to just escalations related to cost of living and increases, as well as an increase in the service level related to grounds.
Exactly.
Okay. Great.
I have a question.
Sure.
The highway, is that, like repairing the roads, is that included in that?
It is. The highway budget is, well, there's funding for repairing roads comes in different forms. Hopefully we're proposing an article a couple of articles to repair some of the major roads through the people's money. The other one is that we have Chapter 90 monies. We get rough, you know, close to $300,000 a year from the state if our governor gives it to us, and he has every year. Other than that, we have the budget, and that the budget is in front of you. So, but the budget that we have, it's kind of like, you can call it like daily maintenance, but it's really, in other words, like for trees. You know how you'd like to go out and you'd maintenance trees and cut them and trim them and stuff like that? We have so little money in that. We almost have to wait for the tree to fall, and we use it as an emergency. That word maintenance is kind of, so our budget is just a sustaining life type thing. We manage that right to the end so that we get through each, you know, to the end of the year.
Yeah, because some of the roads after this winter are pretty
Oh, yeah.
I recall it's about $30,000 in the repair budget, something
Yeah,
like that?
I've asked for a slight increase in that. I mean, if you put 200,000 in it, I'd spend it. But in highway, I can tell you exactly, yes. Sorry, I'm going the back way. I asked for an increase of about $2,000 just to take it from, where are we? Daily maintenance, we had an approved budget last year of $26,800, and this year we're asking $30,000. So just, if we can get a couple $1,000s more, we rounded it off to $30,000. Still isn't enough to do with what you're seeing out there, nothing.
Yeah, I've seen some cones that were sticking out of the hole, maybe that much. It's like,
Well,
wow.
just to understand how the money flows, so like pothole repairs, that's under, you do
Daily
that under
maintenance.
Chapter 90 or daily maintenance?
Daily
That's
maintenance.
under daily maintenance.
Chapter
okay.
90 has criteria for
It's
spending that.
more like, you know,
Oh, that's
either
just like
full
Band-Aid.
redos or, yeah.
That's all it is, right.
Yeah.
And it goes quick. And we'll do, you know, many other things. I mean, just sidewalk repair, berm repair. We'll spend a lot of that. But the first thing we'll do is you go around a cycle, and we have snow all winter long. When we get, there's really not much you can do. The ground and the frost creates frost and thaw, and you get your potholes. Happens that way. And then we'll go out in the spring, and we'll do a survey of the town, and we'll go through the town, through every single street, and we'll make note of what it is that we need to repair, and that includes berm, potholes. We destroy lawns by plowing, you can't see. So we go back and we spend a lot of this money doing those types of repair. Wouldn't come out of the snow budget, but it'd come out of here. So we try to hold that $30,000 I'm asking for now. I probably have a balance in there. We probably have a balance in there of about $15,000 for this year to get to June. So you kind of starve off the spending as much as you can.
How many streets are you going to be asking for on the, is it a separate article for each one, or do you have one article for each?
I'm hoping it even makes your attention. The fact that we spent so much in snow this year, they may just say, you know, we need to get out of this year.
Yeah.
So I would do, my philosophy is this, and I think it's shared with a lot of towns. Ali, do you mind if I just can finish with this? Because it's a great question, is that the Chapter 90 monies that we have, what I'd like to do is take those monies and spend them in the neighborhoods that we haven't been in years. Rebuild some of these neighborhoods. Up in Pheasant Hill, up off of Fruit Street, we did one neighborhood. But what happens instead is we'll take that money, because we've just, like every other community, have seen some tough times, and we've used that Chapter 90 money as our salvation. But what I think that we should do is use it, the Chapter 90 monies, for the main streets and the Seekonk Streets projects like we did. And I'm sorry, not the Chapter 90, proposed articles to repair those streets. You'll see that happen in a lot of time.
Main
We used to have a road stabilization fund, and it's not here anymore. But if we were to take money and just do what we really need to do on Main Street, Chapter 90 funds would disappear in a heartbeat, and these neighborhoods just aren't getting the attention, and they are falling apart. The longer you wait, the larger the repair costs. So, in summary, I'd like to propose articles for as often as and if there's no money in the town, you say no. So we propose an article, we identify the project, put it before the people, and let's see if the people want to take care of their town. Chapter 90 monies, again, I'd like to take that for, you know, repairing neighborhoods and, you know, smaller construction projects, but get more intimate with it because we're just serving the main thoroughfares, and I'm sure that Walpole appreciates it and Foxborough appreciates it. But if you live in Lafayette Estates, you haven't seen us up there, you know, other than spot repairs. That's the original pavement up there, and I think that goes back to the 60s. So that's what my thinking is.
Vehicle maintenance brought to mind vehicles, and in my time on this committee, which has been, I don't know, 6, 7 years or something at this point, I don't think we've had a single vehicle replaced at DPW. Have we?
Did we get a whole lot of them at the last town meeting?
Yeah, I thought we did.
Yeah.
We had
The-
3 trucks
The,
that are now
not
in
the
stock.
big stuff, though.
Not the big stuff,
Not the big
no.
stuff,
No, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
That's what I'm referring to,
Oh, yeah.
the heavy equipment.
right.
What is our situation there? Are we, like, just getting
Well, we
by,
have
or?
it, we've got a capital improvement list. There's, you know, to me, there's 2 types of capital improvements, and it's equipment and it's project-driven. So for the equipment use, we have a whole list. I mean, I have some here, but, you know, that, I discussed this with Jack and briefly with the selectmen, and we'll see what is brought in front of you. I prioritize it by worst condition or most need or something, you know, something to that effect. Fortunately, what you've all done for us, while we didn't have any capital to spend, was you gave us a good budget in solid waste to repair the existing equipment. And that's gone a long way. You'll see a couple of line items if you look to the details of some, if you don't have it in front of you. Some of the line item details will have a major expense to, like a fire apparatus or a front-end loader or something like that. And we've been able to keep them running because you've been giving us the money on a year-to-year basis. And we'll do that as long as we have to, but it's, you know, if we can get new equipment, that's the ultimate, you know.
Now, the fire apparatus would be fire department budget, just yours for maintenance, but you also have vehicles.
We repair that, so we beg for that money too. We, you know, work with the chief.
Right.
We understand what there's a relationship is very close between our vehicle maintenance superintendent and the chief, and so their vehicles are in our garage all the time.
Just curious, what's the, I see solid waste and water revenue-based. What is the total revenue for those?
That's that's a tough question. I'm not, you know, I really couldn't, I'm not prepared to discuss that. What happens, like in solid waste, is our you know, fiscal year splits the year kind of like awkwardly, because we have a large income going into the fall, and then it gets kind of slow, and in the spring we have a large income from the spring. But it gets split over 2 different years so it's difficult. So I don't know if I'm going to answer this really well for you, because not too long ago we were approved and we got a couple of compactors. And I can tell you now, just to give you some kind of revenue experiences, with these compactors, I can tell you that we're going to market half the time and we're bringing double the weight. Exactly what we say is what's happening. I just can't share those numbers with you right now. With the downtime that the men have, Ali, you know exactly what we're talking about because he helped me through this. With the downtime that the men have for not traveling and burning gas and wearing on the truck equipment and so forth, they're processing materials in our backyard, so we have a whole organics subdivision, and that's bringing in money. So when we do a Chapter 90 project, or if we ever get an article project and we build the streets, well, that's going to need gravel to do that. It's going to need a place for us to dispose of. So what we do in-house is we take that money and we pay ourselves to make the gravel. It's a very, continuity's awesome. So I think if we had one more year, I'd like to put on a real show for you to just show what you've done for us and what the returns are for that, because it's going in the right direction.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Any other questions on the DPW budget itself? We can move on to the water element, if anybody has any questions about the water budget
Well, just, sorry, on the solid waste, I guess, there is a notion that the revenue and the expenses are pretty much in line with, sorry, I'm thinking now of the transfer station.
Solid waste.
Yeah.
It's under there.
So is it fair to say that the revenues are on the order of 390,000?
Yes.
I mean, that balance is still there. It's not running a deficit.
If you know what I did, I brought this along because I know that you'd trip me up with this.
No, if you look, not meant to trip you up, but just want to make sure we're running.
No, it's a good question. I'm kind of proud of it. So what I do is I get a report. We take our financial software is Munis. So what we do is we take Munis and we make sense out of it with a spreadsheet. As you know, a budget is a tool that just helps us out. But we have now I have a report in front of me that's good for this year, since July up until the end of February. And if I go right to solid waste right now, I can tell you that we've expended our budget. Our revenue to date is $212,000. Our expenses are $217,000. Right now, we're running $4,000 behind. Expenses are kind of like you can even them out. I know what I'm going to spend. But you never know what the revenue is going to bring in, but I can guarantee you that it's going to bring in a lot more than the winter did, because of the winter nothing happens. You know, people. You know, we have. You know, and we depend on the markets too. We're working this market for the best price, all that we can, plastics, cardboards, and we're subject to the market changes. So once this weather breaks, that $4,000 that we're behind right now, that's going to start to go up a little bit quicker than our expenses will, because our expenses will stay at constant. It's safe to say at this point going into the spring, the more we spend in solid waste, the more that we're going to make. It kind of works that way, because we're going to market more often. Well, we're bringing in more dollars that way too. So right now, we're $4,000 behind, and by June, ask me the same question. I can give you a stat from last year, and I won't be long-winded with this, but last year was really only a half a year's reward for the compactors. And what we had spent in the compactors and the improvements to solid waste was roughly around $60,000. Throw that into the pool, take it out of the pool, and we made $20,000 last year. But throw it into the pool, we were behind $40,000. But that was a half a year into our investment. So you gave us $60,000 to make purchases and improvements. Take that out, and we were $20,000 ahead. We're not a profit organization. We just try to make costs wash and try to make it affordable for sticker holders.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Okay. Water question. The rates presumably unchanged, or?
Right. We went to we have a rate and fee study that starts in September. It's open to the public for any of their questions, viewing, and we get a handful of questions, and then we go and we establish the rates and, you know, request rates. We didn't request a rate hike this year. So this is probably the third year that we didn't ask, you know, that we're not moving the rates. And at the same time, we're building. I don't want to just stay here and everything is just rosy and it's great news, great, followed by great news. But we have a good amount of money in retained earnings. Well, we couldn't say that 3 years ago. And that's good. Bad news is we need a water source. I don't know if that's gotten around, but we've working on a report, and I want to get that out in front of all the boards and so forth, just to give everybody a good picture and a state of the water type of report assessment of our supply. So we're in desperate need of water, and we're moving in that direction, but that's going to cost money, so it's good that we have some retained earnings. A lot of it'll, you know, the retained earnings, you know, this is a loan effect. This will come out of debt and borrowing, but still the more that you can pay down, the less you're going to have to borrow. Or right now, if we need equipment, and we do need some trucks and water, we can possibly purchase right from our retained earnings.
Which raises a good point. The retained earnings had gotten down as low as a couple $100,000, I think,
50,000.
maybe 3 years ago, and and we're working their way back up towards the 500,000 mark a year or so ago. Is that about right?
4 years ago, we had around $50,000 certified. This, right now, as we speak, we have 603,000, with the second half of our billing still to come. So it wouldn't surprise us that in October, when we certify, unless we make some purchases, and that just could, you know, that we could be pushing $800,000-900,000.
Well, I know that it was $1 million my first year on this committee, give or take a little, and that $1 million got spent in looking for water, basically, and drilling
Right.
wells and all that sort of stuff. And it vanishes quickly, so.
It does.
I can well believe those kinds of reserves are necessary.
Bob, your quest for water, is that, because I thought you were drilling off of Medway Street and then in Gold Street. Did those not work out, and now you have to find alternate sources, or you still need more sources and those did work out?
Gold Street is off Medway, and that's an existing well.
Yeah.
And that's the mother lode. That's,
Right.
we depend
I
on
thought
that.
you were gonna do a second one.
We did.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so we have a satellite one there. And it goes back to some of the spending that you talked about when we were heavy with $1 million. We put some money into that, even did some extended ones out there, and we probably spent, I don't know, maybe $250,000 over there. Came up with a satellite well, which is only like 70 feet away. It's difficult. You don't just drill holes. There's a whole permitting process with the DEP, and there's watershed concerns and all sorts of things like that. Well, that well does produce some water, but it's loaded with iron and manganese. So we can blend it a little bit. When we need it, we'll turn it on a little bit, but in other words, it'll be 5 pots, the primary well, and only 1 pot that, because it's so diluted with iron and manganese. But it's helpful, but it wasn't the investment. If we could turn the clocks back, I never would have put a shovel in the ground over there. But you don't know when you're going for water, you know?
It's like a chaser.
And were we also doing one off of,
Chaser drain.
what's the lake over there by Rentham?
I can never remember the names, I don't know.
What's the lake by Rentham there by
Merrill?
Tom's
Lake
Tavern?
Pearl?
or the-
Old Populatic?
Yeah.
No, that's Merrill.
Mirror.
Mirror. Were you doing one in Mirror? I thought
No.
we were near that.
What we have over there is a connection, an interconnection with the town of Rentham.
Okay.
And that's actually some of our requests in the water budget, because we asked for $10,000 in expenses to buy water from Rentham in the event we had that need. One well goes down, we like to open that up and just take a couple 100,000 gallons a day or something like that. It comes at a cost. We really haven't done that in the past, but now we're starting to grow as a community. And the last thing we want to do is draw down, and we probably don't need the 10,000. Actually, I can tell you that we don't. But if we go demand our water to the point where we're starting to suck mud, that's a bad thing. So what you want to do is, you know, our water comes out of our pumps and it goes to our tanks, and if we could have some more redundancy, that would be just great, especially to reflect the growth pattern that we're headed. So, but I'll tell you where we are looking at right now is off of Lawrence Street. Not too long ago, Mr. DePlacido came in and did a presentation for a development that he's proposing, but at the same time, there's some history there that there's water. We went out and invested a little bit of money in some preliminary drilling, and it was, I would say, 80% positive right now. It's not giving us as much water as another site, Mill River, where we spent a lot of that $1 million. In 1995, we made, I don't know when you were talking
That
about.
was the one I was thinking of, not Mirror Lake, Mill River.
Yeah, the Mill River. It's
Well,
not
that's
pond,
before
it's the
my
river,
time.
but it's on the Franklin border.
Yes.
That pumps water enough to supply 6 towns. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it has a drawdown effect on Franklin's well. So that put a kibosh on that for a while until we can work things out. So we're active and we're looking for water. I've said more publicly about the water tonight than I have anywhere else, but I really want that report from professionals that gives us the state of the assessment, you know? I mean, the supply.
That seems to come up when I hear people sometimes talk about, on a separate note, their desire for more limited residential development in the town. I keep hearing, it was mentioned tonight about straining the water supply.
Well, you know, if you don't have water, it can affect an entire industry. The only other thing you can do is go back to, you know, private well sites, and that, you know, that still draws from that ocean that's underneath that aquifer. So, and we have a subdivision bylaw that says that, you know, if you're gonna propose a subdivision, you need to tap our water. So that's coming, you know, these issues are coming up. commercial development doesn't draw on water like residential does.
Other questions? No? Anything else you'd like to add?
Not really.
Mike, I'm sorry.
Article 10?
I didn't even know that that the articles were published. Why don't you tell me about it?
Article 10 says, ask about capital budget, debt-funded road projects.
That's probably a little bit inside of what I was
Aren't any, right?
talking about.
Aren't any what?
Right.
Didn't you, either you or Marion told me that there weren't going to be any capital?
Article 10.
That's probably changing. Changes
Why
every
am I
day,
not
Pat.
surprised?
Changes every day. I received a text this evening that said, I need to convene the capital committee for a meeting in April.
Well, let's get that capital committee.
I know, I'm not from the street.
Okay. Well then, so I guess your question is in play.
My question's in play, Bob. What do you have in mind?
Are you asking project-specific? Because like in my idea of capital, at least how it relates to the Department of Public Works, is it's equipment-driven or project-related. Whether we need a new building or repairs, something like that. We have equipment needs, and I've presented the board with a list of equipment. Am I going the right direction?
This refers specifically to road projects.
What roads are you gonna fix?
Article 10, capital budget, debt-funded road I think I
Maybe you
interpret
should
that as being
actually,
both
see what,
capital
Yeah,
acquisitions
road
and road
projects.
I did take a
projects.
look at it. Right at the end there, it says road projects.
This sounds like what
I
you were
know
saying
that.
before about the main projects you put up as articles, you know, like if you want to do.
Yeah,
Main
right,
Street
but I
or
have
something.
the impression.
Right, we're looking at, last year we did a little bit of work on Main Street. We did a good sized length of Main Street. What we'd like to do is extend that up to, up and a little bit past Park Street. We also want to include Park Street on that.
Park Street, is it?
Park Street's a mess.
Oh, you can't even, my husband
Right.
drives around through, down to Grove Street,
No,
because you can't even pass it.
right. There's also a stretch of Route 115 that we'd like to continue from Needham Street to the center of town. If, when the snow melts, well, it's all melted. If you take a ride up there right now, you find the curb is gone and the sidewalk is exposed to traffic. It was never, it was an old-fashioned design anyways, but right there's $700,000.
Yeah, I guess that's, so you're gonna
Don't need
propose
much.
specific streets
I will.
and money, and you're gonna propose that the town borrow the money. Is that what this is?
I'm not so sure if it's borrowing or if, I think if you read the article, it says for funds available, or does it say
Well,
that
says-
general statement?
It seems to, it's, the parenthetical seems to indicate debt funded, but so you don't,
Right.
that plan is not settled yet. You don't know.
Hasn't been, no. And what we'll do is we'll, on
That
a,
would not be chapter 90.
You
no,
want to use
if
that
it's
for the
chapter 90, it
neighborhoods.
wouldn't be
Those are
here.
for the small
There's,
roads, right.
there's an article for spending that's just a generic
Right.
article that you approve every year, and, but if we don't get our way with, and the people vote not to support this, at whatever the dollar is and whatever the project direction is, then it would be chapter 90. So what I was gonna say is that, well, I'll sit with the selectmen at some point and the town administrator, and we'll narrow down the projects to specifics and put a dollar amount on that. They have a preliminary look at it. Like I said, I have one here, but the list is this long, and then we work ourselves down, so.
Well, if this didn't
Those are a
get-
couple.
If this didn't get funded and then it went back to chapter 90, I mean, the scope would go way down. It would just be Band-Aids. It wouldn't be, if you only had chapter 90 money to spend,
Right.
that would be like a couple Band-Aids on the roads that you're proposing. It wouldn't be the extent of.
Right, there's,
finishing, right?
you're right. There was when I first came here, I did a pavement assessment. I surveyed every single road, and I did an assessment on every road, and I applied a cost to that, and the cost comes from something that we enter into called the surge bid. It's 19 communities that we, strengthen numbers type of thing. So we bid asphalt, we bid curb setting and stuff like that. That means I don't have to go bid them individually and worry about certified payrolls. It's all kind of taken care of it for us. So we came up with a cost for pavement management based on those prices, and it changes every single year. I haven't kept up the pavement management as well because my duties have changed and nobody's come in underneath me to do that yet. But So you kind of, you rate the streets in in worse conditions. And if we were to, just now the long answer, the short answer to yours, if we were to repair roads by that method, or as I say, by an engineer's handbook, we would only get 1,000 feet done for a lot of money. So we break the rules a lot to get more bang for the buck. So in other words, where a street might fall into a reclamation where you have this heavy equipment come in and you pulverize the street, and you re-engineer the center line, and you roll out the gravel and then a binder in the top, we might just take that street like we did on Main Street and mill it. Just take off the 1.5 inch top,
Right.
get some consistency. If the street has a foundation that's worthy of doing that, that's what I'll do. And then we'll come back and we get a lot more going for it. But we can't sit around. We can't sit around and do, the ideal method of repair, because we'll get nowhere. We have to go the distance, so.
And I think vehicles were also part of the equation, or equipment. We were talking about the project. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, that was. I'm curious as to the answer to the question that wasn't specifically asked, and that's, from a capital perspective,
Right.
equipment, whatnot. I mean, you had mentioned just about how some lighter equipment got replaced last time.
I think
Right,
the-
it's the last time with short money, we were able to buy 3 pickup trucks. Those, that all fell into the restructure, our organization restructure. We have 3 superintendents now in charge of 6 divisions. And each one of those were given a truck, a small pickup truck. And it was a decision where you can buy a half a piece of equipment or you can buy 3 pickup trucks. In the hands of our superintendents, those trucks will last for like 15 years because they just don't put the wear and tear on them. And they need to be on site and they need to do the, the survey work and run the division and so forth. But the big equipment that Pat was talking about, that's another thing that we'll talk in
Yeah, that
concert
list you
with.
mentioned.
Right.
Okay.
And the list is far more than we can afford. But every year we update, we keep that list going for every division. So we communicate with the fire and the police and the senior center and so forth. And we have all that equipment. We have a replacement list in the ideal situation. But it can't afford the ideal situation. So we take it one year at a time.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Appreciate it.
Easily understood. If only zoning was like this, huh?
The zoning.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks, good night.
Thank you.
Zoning.
Okay. And now the work begins. The warrant. We all have the warrant. What I'd like to do is plow through these articles one by one, hopefully quickly. Most of them, many of them. Hopefully get some significant chunk of them voted and get them assigned to people. So we can just start at the beginning.
I just
Susan.
wanted to mention about zoning, that Jack sent me a text that said, all zoning articles, even by petition, will go through a public hearing with the planning board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
planning board has to do one.
I figured the public hearing had to be a legal requirement of some kind or other.
Is Jack watching us?
He must have been earlier.
Wave to Jack.
Okay. Alrighty.
When is the planning board meeting?
April
The opening.
29th.
April 29th.
So
The
that's
public
what makes
hearing.
it so difficult every year, is they meet
Right before,
too close to, I mean, we'll get their
at
decision.
town meeting.
At town meeting.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there a process, though, to have the zoning bylaw committee also?
No,
Take a look.
that's not required. I mean, they could hold a hearing or.
But I think there were
They
many
could have a
comments
meeting.
from, internally from our group about we really don't want to consider it without planning board review, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Planning
they-
board will do it on
They'll
the
review.
29th.
I'm sorry, not planning, the.
Zoning
the-
bylaw.
The zoning bylaw.
Zoning bylaw, correct. Is that something
right,
that we
they've not been
request?
involved. I mean, they might have an opinion, but I don't know that there's any requirement that they be involved in the process.
I guess I'm not asking if there's a requirement, I'm asking, don't we want to ask them to have a look at it? Otherwise, we're voting at town meeting on zoning bylaws that the zoning bylaw committee hasn't even looked at.
We'll,
Can we do something now to make sure that there's time to?
well, we'll see what we need. I mean,
We could send it
I
to
have-
them and just ask them to send us a written opinion.
I mean, I know which way I'm going on those articles already, so I'm not so sure that,
Can we
you know,
start at
we'll
number
see.
27,
Well, but-
Pat? Can we start at number 27?
Yeah, but I mean,
But I don't know that that's giving it the
based upon the impacts that the people in the audience predicted, we have an impression, but the whole, a large portion of getting this expert review is there are unintended consequences of a lot of this stuff.
They're not written correctly.
Right, so this could be torpedoing other sections that we don't even have a clue about, so.
Yep.
I just.
Well, only if you're in favor of it.
I'm in favor of a reasonable understanding that we can get by people who know more than I do between now and town meeting.
I would not advise town person to vote for a zoning change that was not at least supported in language by the zoning bylaw study committee. Regardless of whether they agree with the basic premise of the
Surface
article.
interpretation.
But the way it's written, at least, like, they should say, well, you know, it's not what we were going for, but, yes, technically it's written well, and it does not violate 12 other surrounding articles that
So is
relate
that-
to the same subject.
Is
Let
that
me,
specific to 27 and 28, or to all of them?
All of them.
Although the
Let
other
me
ones are
put it this way. If
not
we walk
really.
away from tonight feeling like we need additional input, then I'll get in touch with
But,
the
Mr.
committees
Chairman,
and see if we can have some
but that puts us,
additional input.
let's say that I'm the person standing up to then explain our position. What that does is I'm standing up and telling the town, we're voting against this because this committee didn't look at it. That doesn't quite seem very
That
strong.
isn't, well, I mean,
Right?
we'll all have our reasons one way or the other, I'm sure, but,
But I want, oh, okay.
you know.
Well,
What
I mean,
would be, what
for
would be
me-
the negative effect of going through the due diligence of?
There wouldn't be
reviewing
any,
this?
wouldn't be
So
any.
why don't we just do it?
I was trying to say
Oh,
that
okay.
if we get through the night and we still feel like we need input, then
Okay.
I'll get in touch with them and we'll
Okay,
see if
got
we
it.
can schedule them, or at least I'll hear from them or what they have to say about it.
Okay.
I know my own feeling is that procedurally, this is a bad idea. So I don't really care what the subject is or the substance of the article is.
Are
that
you
this is
asking
just
for a
not-
motion,
Not the
Mr.
right
Chairman?
way to, pardon me?
Are you asking for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I'm not, I'm just stating an opinion. I don't know if people are ready to vote or not.
Well, can I make a, I don't know if you can make a motion on, I don't want to make a motion based upon the article. I want to make a motion about getting information about an article. Is that
Well,
valid?
we don't
Do
need a motion for that. We'll just
That's-
ask for it.
I wonder if that's what Arlie's getting at.
No, I
It
think
could
Arlie
be.
had something else in
No,
mind.
Arlie and I have something else in
So,
mind.
Oh, do you?
Are you in a position?
Anybody
to-
is
would you like
always
to
free
entertain a
to
motion?
make a motion at any time and to ask for
I move to
reconsideration
IP Article
later.
27.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we IP Article 27.
Aye.
Discussion?
Discussion.
Yeah, discussion.
It's true that there are procedural concerns which would make this a bad idea. I guess I just would like to have other reasons why perhaps this is not such a hot idea.
No. Again, I don't really care whether it's a great idea. It could be the best zoning article change the town's ever seen. We have a process. It goes through the planning board, the zoning bylaw study committee, and then they recommend zoning changes. And if people don't want to go through that process and just circumvent it and bring a petition, I don't think that's the way you should do zoning in your town.
It is going before the planning board, it won't go before the,
Right.
Zoning.
Right.
so it is gonna, that just hasn't happened yet, so maybe he was here too early.
Well, but it seems to me by his
We won't have
comments that
time.
he said, and the comments that I heard Mr. Chipman making, that in fact, this article does take away some authority from the planning board. So I find it hard to believe that the planning board would be in favor of something that would then
Right.
restrict their own authority. So I think, I'm in agreement to IP this article, but I think it begs the larger question of if a resident of the town feels disenfranchised somewhat by the process, what vehicle do they have to move forward with this? And it sounds like perhaps there is, through the alternate zoning board bylaw study committee would have been the appropriate vehicle to do that. But I guess that's sort of the larger question in my mind.
Well, what they're trying to change came out of the zoning bylaw study committee, so it's pretty doubtful the zoning bylaw study committee is gonna now say, oh, that's great, we support that.
But it's not, it's articles, every one of these articles was written with a series of articles, and it was written based on what we as a town voted, what we wanted for the downtown core area, on the master plan. You know, when I was on the zoning board, this building, they built it and they asked to vary from everything. You can't just go make a plan and then not follow it or chip away with it over the years. This is part of a major plan. And I understand from, that he lives in one of those houses or, you know, in that neighborhood, and he's trying to change the core plan, the master plan of the town. And I think there's credence to saying you can't have spotty zoning like that. You know, people have spent a long time and a lot of money and a lot of effort in this town to get rid of the spot zoning and to have, you know, actual areas with an actual circumference that are in the same zoning. So I'd be wary to advise the town members that they should vote for this.
The town always has the option to outvote us, regardless of what our opinion. It's not like we are determinative, although we do have influence,
Right.
obviously. So it really comes down, I think, I mean, we do have a motion. We have some number of us that are ready to vote, apparently, and perhaps some number that don't, but majority will carry the day, so.
But so you want to IP it, isn't that, what is that exactly? That just means we don't want to take it off the table and we don't want to discuss it, because we think procedurally it doesn't.
Indefinite postponement means typically that we disapprove. It can mean, as in the case of the capital budget, the last meeting, that we simply did not have time to give an opinion. So what our IP means is generally going to be brought forth in the supporting statement made by the person. Right?
Okay.
If our IP is a mixed message, that there are some of us that object on procedural grounds, others of us don't like the article itself, others of us, maybe it's a mixed vote, others of us think this should go forward and we should have gotten more information, then we'll present those 3 points of view at the, it's our job, I think, to do that, when we have a dissent, if it's a 5-3 vote, then we say it's a 5-3 vote, and this was the reason for, and these were the reasons against. So I view that as our responsibility.
Procedurally, though,
to put those all on the table at the meeting.
Procedurally, we would vote for the IP, which is different than voting against this particular article, right?
We never vote against an article.
Right, we vote to IP.
We either vote to approve it or
Okay,
IP it.
all right, that's what my question was,
Right.
okay.
So we have a motion to IP, and whatever that IP, if it's approved, if the IP is approved, then whatever that IP means, we will have to deal with when we write the explanation. But at the moment, we just have to vote to either, to go ahead with. So,
I'm fine with
further
supporting
discussion?
that we IP this.
If we can vote.
Aye.
No further discussion, then all in favor of the motion to IP Article 27, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is 7-0. So, a little out of order, but hey, it's progress.
Would you like to continue in order?
While we're at it,
Just get through those articles.
since we have the warrant open to that page, does anybody else have anything further they'd like to add on any of these other articles?
IP Article 28.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we IP Article 28. Any discussion?
My reasoning's the same as the previous one.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor of IPing Article 28? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous again. Article 29.
I moved to IP Article 29, 30, and 31, because they're all doing the same thing.
Seconded.
I actually, on 29, I feel like the town, you guys know I was not in favor
True,
of
there is a little
this.
difference between the other.
And the town voted it down, and then for some reason, it showed back up, which.
And it passed.
I'm not clear on why something could be voted down, and then the exact same articles show up again.
Well, and then the
So-
exact same article can show up a third time.
So
by
that's my
petition.
point, is it
Just
was
keep going
down.
till
I
there's
mean,
enough people.
Clearly, the town did not want it, and then it came back, and I was not at the last town meeting, so I don't recall what the vote was. Mr. Diamond seems to feel that the vote was very close, and he seemed to indicate there was something about a count, I don't know, but if there's any question that of that, then that's the only one that I have no problem with putting back on there, because
I made the motion the second time, so, and I wasn't there the first time, so I don't know what it was. But I can tell you, between the first and the second time, it was said and documented extensively during the town meeting that there was a clearer understanding of boundary requirements around that lot that would restrict what was feared to be higher density housing. I think where it was the perception of the fear in the first vote. So there was some clarification about the restrictions that were going to be imposed by incorporating it in the B1, and perhaps it was said more enthusiastically, but I think that was the specific difference between the first and the second.
But no substantive change. A clarification.
Clarification of that addressed some concerns that drove, I presume, the vote the first time, which I wasn't there for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, would you mind
No,
dividing the
so now we'll try.
I
again.
seconded it.
Oh, you did, it's been moved.
Yeah, I'll
Moved
do
and
all three.
seconded.
All right.
Does that mean
I will,
I guess it can't be,
What can you do?
I don't know how we get out of this bind
Where's the road?
procedurally.
We ask Susan.
I'll
Rewrite the minutes.
So, what?
Can you withdraw a motion?
Trying to
once
do-
it's
I'll withdraw it,
seconded?
that's what it was.
Yeah, do I have
I'll
the-
withdraw it.
Withdraw the motion.
Second that? Yeah.
Seconded.
Okay. I moved to IP Article 29.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded to IP Article 29. Discussion.
I'm not in favor of that.
Any other discussion?
So again, the thought is that this, now I'm confused. What's been turned down twice before should be
No,
reconsidered.
it was
It was
turned
turned
down,
down,
approved, and now
Now we're
it's up to
zoning
be turned down
change.
effectively, or revert back.
Yeah.
So we're voting,
So is that actually, is it in fact reverting back? Was that what it was before it was accepted? The
It
last
hasn't
This
time?
was
changed
not
to my
B1.
knowledge.
This would not B1. It was, a vote was made to change it to B1. That
Right.
was
Is this the Kelly?
shot down.
Voted down.
This
It was
is
then
the, yeah, the Kelly
approved
one.
for B1.
Came back.
Kelly one.
Right.
Now this
Yeah.
is, they want to ship it back to
Back to
residential.
residential.
Okay, so it was residential.
11.
Was
Yes.
residential to
Prior to
start.
Yep.
change, okay.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, give the town the chance to vote whether they want to uphold what they first voted it to be a year ago.
By virtue of it being here, they will have a chance to vote.
Right.
Yeah, this is strictly the opening motion.
Yep.
So, it has been moved and seconded to IP Article 29. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
One.
Just the one, 6-1? Now a two-bagger might work.
All right. I moved to IP Article.
Not to put words in your mouth.
Article 30 and 31.
seconded.
Moved and seconded that we IP Articles 30 and 31. Any discussion? All in favor then? Aye.
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 All opposed? It is unanimous again. Now, one person should take these articles for discussion. Who wants to be the lucky person?
I'll do it.
All right.
Anybody want to fight Dave for it?
No.
Okay,
No, thank you.
all right, so Dave's gone.
It looks like you start with 13, unless you want to hear.
Okay, now, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Article 1 requires nothing from us. Article 2, we don't know about any unpaid bills. Article 3, we won't know until the night of the meeting. Article 4 is the first one we can actually do anything on. This is our usual standard 1.5% increase every year for the non-union town employees.
I move to approve Article 4.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve Article 4. Any discussion? Charlie, you look like you're studying it more intently than usual.
It's the same amount we've done the couple of years, but it could vary. So the only thing I was wondering is, what was Jack's thinking on putting in the 1.5 for this year? I know it applies to very few people.
Right.
Just like 18 people, I think.
Yes, might not even be that many anymore, but, so the only thing I was thinking is, although if they've already put it in, obviously this is what they're going with, and we've never, changed it on them, so,
That's what I figured.
sure
We'll
it's fine
change it
just
to
for-
1
yeah,
1/4.
yeah.
1 3/4, so.
Is it really 18 people nowadays?
It is,
Well,
it's very
Dave is saying
small.
it's less.
It might even be fewer. It's a very small percentage, because this doesn't relate to all the union employees. Theirs are all by contract.
Yeah. I heard a number of 18 like 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah,
so it
I
could well be
remember.
less now.
Yeah.
So
So wait, we have a
fine,
motion and a
yeah,
second
we have
at
a
this
motion
point,
and a
right?
second, yeah.
Last call for comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Why do we even do this?
I know, wouldn't it just be in the budget?
I don't know. Yeah,
We
it
have-
is.
we have
Yeah,
lots
so
of
why
articles
are
like
they-
this.
yeah.
It must be, I have no idea, actually. There
just
must be
curious
some
why-
special.
Has this
state
ever
law or
appeared
Oh, you know,
something
you know
requiring-
why?
It's a
Because
bylaw.
this-
That's every year.
This is not a
This
budget item.
No.
This is amending the
Compensation.
resource
schedule.
policy.
Oh,
So is this in addition
With
to
the
what was
new
budgeted?
date.
So it didn't
No.
Not in
it's-
addition to,
it's
it's just.
what they use to build the
Yeah.
budget, but it's kind of like.
So does that mean every year it'll be 1.5 unless?
No, we just.
No, we have to
fixing
vote the
it.
1.5 every year. What this does is, they put the 1.5 in the budget. What this does, this amends the human resource policy.
But it looks
With
like
the
it
new
says
date.
that they will have 1.5% every year unless other action is taken there too.
Although it's funny,
So does
it
that
does
mean we
seem
don't
like that would
approve
be
it
the
moving
case,
forward?
except
Yeah.
if that was the case, we wouldn't need to vote on it this year, because it's already at 1.5.
I don't understand how you,
Yeah.
it just says a general increase of 1.5% to all steps,
Effective
effective July 1.
1st.
Yeah.
it's like a one-time
So
event.
not
Oh,
an
it's a
annual
one-time, it's
thing.
not an.
No.
Right.
Right.
No,
No,
it's a
it's
one-time.
just
It's effective
time.
July
It's a
1,
one-time.
yeah, effective July 1, 2014.
change them all by
All
1.5.
steps will be increased by 1.5.
It's not saying perpetual or annual.
And this is just
Yeah.
deduct,
And
yeah, they'll
increase.
get the 1.5 forever, but they won't get a new 1.5
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
unless we
Okay.
vote it every year.
Okay.
So- But aren't all these remaining 18 employees on contracts that are negotiated?
No,
No, no, this would be like, and I don't even, like town clerical kinds of folks, not like Jack, and, who has a negotiated contract. This would be.
I'm one of these people.
There we go.
See, if I work
Real
for
life
the-
example.
I work
What if we
for
said
the
no?
Affordable Trust, so I'm not in the union contract.
Well, we've done
So
it
it's
every
those,
year.
anybody that's not in the union that does any type of,
And you're not on a contract.
correct.
Okay.
How many employees
Not
are
any
there? Do you know
pressure
how
on
many
anything.
employees
We never
are?
had about these.
I think in this building, there's probably 4.
Yeah, this may strictly apply to Susan.
I would have changed that number before I sent you all direct.
Are you sure they didn't ask for less?
I'm
We
positive.
have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? About this 1.5%?
I know.
that applies to 7
20
people
minutes.
or whatever. Yes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. 5 is the budget, 6 is the water budget. We don't have the numbers yet to vote on, so. Okay.
Fire department.
In principle, shouldn't there be a capital committee review of these things and then a recommendation from the capital committee? Isn't that what's in the bylaws?
By these things, you mean Article 7?
From anything involving a capital expense, from 7 to 11?
Personal protective equipment.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten to Articles 8, 9, 10 yet, but
Right,
yes.
so start with
Yeah, they
7.
are capital, right? I mean, we don't have anything to vote on for 8, 9, and 10 anyway. I don't understand what,
7.
I mean, typically, things like this in the past have come in through the capital budget, which is then voted as its own article, not as a standalone capital spending article independent of the capital. So that's what I'm reacting to when I see this.
I think what's happening, Arlie, the reason that that's showing up the way it is if you look for the revolver funds, somewhere in here, there's an article that establishes a revolver.
Fire department.
There may be a connection.
This is a pretty typical, I remember from the good old days, yeah, 34.
Yeah.
It's got a limit of
But-
$20,000.
Right, and it wouldn't be applied to this kind of thing, right? It just has to do with,
Seats, for monitoring system, no, I guess not. I guess not. This
Why isn't this with the revolving?
is something different than it used to be.
Which
I
one are you
thought.
looking at?
which one is different?
The 22.5, the Article 7, which is what,
You think it's something,
Personal protective equipment.
I think it's just effectively the equivalent of a capital item.
Yeah.
I don't remember this from the, is this new, Susan?
From
7?
the old warrant,
Yeah, from the version I had earlier.
let me check.
Yeah, I guess it's just a new article. I
Yeah.
don't see it.
Well,
Okay,
maybe
so it's
it's
just
one
new.
we want to save for Jack.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arlie's point is well taken. All these capital articles, we just have to wait and talk to Jack and find out what the process is. Hopefully, it's not last fall's process again, right?
Procedurally,
My
is there a
exhortation for improvement was not enthusiastically received, but we'll see.
Is there a capital committee procedurally at the establishment?
Mm-hmm. So they're gonna meet in early April.
Good.
Okay, so here we're being asked to ante up, and I don't know why we wouldn't put that in the budget.
Which one are you on?
Article 11, I just skipped over all the capital stuff.
I apologize, I had some information on this and I had a different understanding, so bring it next time.
Yeah, I don't see why, if we're gonna chip in for this, it wouldn't just be part of the budget.
It's not part of the, it's a capital project?
But it's not a capital project for us, just the chip in.
Yes.
So, sounds like budget to me. Anyway.
It's all money. I mean, it's all,
Yeah.
it's typically these things appear because they want to minimize the appearance of an increase in an operating spending. And there has been a tradition when the town had capital funds to consider things from KP. But, I mean, that hasn't happened. It's a large amount of money in total, and it's not clear to me why it wouldn't be part of a KP budget discussion.
If it was repair, it would definitely be operating, right? Call it an improvement repair. What does
Yeah,
that
these are
mean?
like,
An improvement wouldn't be separate, wouldn't it, from the operating budget?
yes, capital would be.
Yeah, it
Well,
would be.
that's a
It's
good
just that
point.
the
What's an
difference is-
improvement repair?
I know.
I mean, this is all, it can be all shuffled around in any direction. It's,
Right, again, I think this is Jack, we gotta wait for him. Article 12.
how much are they asking for? They're asking for 130,000?
130 from us. The total is 390.
I thought the total was 150.
There's two of them.
Two pieces.
So the
Oh.
second page.
Sorry.
Our third is 50, and then our third is 80, so it's 130 grand.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, okay.
A lighting expansion.
All right, Article, so those will be Jack issues next week. Article 12, not our problem. Article 13, standard Chapter 90 stuff.
Move to approve Article 13.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve Article 13, acceptance of Chapter 90 money. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, now these revolving funds, shoot, you know what I didn't do? I did not check to make sure that they were all the same ones and the same amounts.
We've
I'll
got
do
the
it
man
real
in the
quick.
library. Is this number 3 new? I don't remember 50,000 bucks
warrant
on
from
that.
last year.
Recreation.
All right.
Do you remember $50,000?
Can't be new, right? They can't just throw a new one in here. They have to establish a new.
Well, that's true. Yeah, so it must be long established. But $50,000 in a revolver?
Which one?
All these questioning the
14,
rec,
Section 3.
the rec field one. I gotta say, I don't remember it either.
Number
but-
8 has
50 last year.
Right, it was 50?
All right.
Yeah,
let's
right.
go.
Okay.
Yep. 1,000, 20, 50, 5.
If you like 3, you're gonna love 8 early.
5. 5 is 5.
Sorry, yeah, 5, 10, 91,
Mm.
30, 2, 7,500, 5, 50. Same ones?
Yep, same one.
Yeah.
Okay, same one, same amounts.
Okay.
I move we approve Article 14.
Second.
After that sterling
Moved
due
and seconded.
diligence.
And moved and seconded and thirded even. That we
Going off.
approve Article 14. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have unanimous. Unanimosity. Unanimousness. Acceptance of grants, Article 15. And actually, maybe we can get a few killed with one stone here. We've got the acceptance of grants by the town, the acceptance of grants by the water, by DPW, the sales of town stuff, not land, I believe. I think this is just stuff. Or maybe this is the land. No, this is the land. Somewhere else must be the stuff. Easements is Article 19. Here it is. Surplus property is, easements is 18, surplus property is 19. And there we end with the,
All right. 15 and 19 are the standard ones we approve every year.
yes.
Right.
I move we approve Articles 15 to 19.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded that we approve Articles 15 through 19. Any discussion on any of them? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous once again.
Was that 15 through 19 or 15?
15 through 19.
Through 15.
Stretch Energy Code, I do not know what that's about. We'll have to hear next week.
It's another second time around, right? Because
Yeah.
that was.
Well, it's not, no, it's got to be different because the
Amended?
other one's in effect.
Oh, no.
What we didn't stretch 2 years ago was in effect a year ago, so this must be something else.
Not sure I follow
Okay.
that. but-
I thought stretch got voted
Yeah.
down.
Stretch got voted down 2 years ago.
It's back again.
But that was, that vote, as I understood it at the time, was that we were implementing the energy code a year early. The year has gone by, the higher standards are in effect.
Oh,
What we were then calling stretch should be in effect now. I figure this has to be a new stretch of some kind.
Okay.
And that we must be looking for early implementation again. Either that or the other one got pushed off for some reason or other, I don't know. But in any event, we don't know, so we need to find out.
Yeah.
is somebody going to present to us on this? or-
The
We'll-
selectmen.
Yeah. Okay, 35,000 is the standard budget for the CPC. The 10% is the standard required by law for the CPC. And I think that's the only two we have in a row that are standard at
Right.
this point.
Right.
I move to approve Articles 21 and 22.
Okay? Yeah. Moved and seconded that we approve Articles 21 and 22. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay.
Didn't 22 used to come in?
CPC will be here next week to
Yeah.
talk about,
Yeah,
let's
I
see,
think
the
they
150 we
combined it
need to
a
hear
while.
about. 24 is still open, 11,000. And then 26, I gather, is a big deal, so we'll hear about that.
Article 22 used to be split into 3, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's my
21 was
recollection.
the
I mean,
same.
all the numbers are the same, but it used to
Yeah.
be 22 used to be 3 separate
did.
articles.
Mark really pushed for this, and
It did.
they agreed to combine them all into one article. I think we did.
No,
I think
this
we did
was-
last year, too.
Yeah, this was
This
combined.
has been a couple of years.
But in the
run
past,
out.
it was split
Yeah.
out.
Okay, okay.
It was, used to be split out.
I don't have a problem with them combining it.
The number,
Come on, Arlie,
one
give it
year
the
it was
time.
300,000.
Sorry, yeah, I
I
got,
think
I
This year they're just breaking it out
26.
For which one?
for 20.
26 has something to do,
Oh, we're,
Right, we're on 26.
as I understand it,
Oh,
with
it's
Jane
the
and Paul.
well, we can't,
Okay.
Yeah.
oh, is it?
And in getting an easement, a restriction on some chunk of their property
Jeez.
at a cost of something. So that's all I know about it.
And Paul's,
Find out next week. CPC is next week. We've already taken care of 27, Article 32. Planning Board, we can't do anything about. Another revolving fund here at Article 34.
why don't they put that with the other
Why is that
article?
different?
I
We
know.
just, we
Why
just
is it
need to
with
wait
the
to hear
others?
about 34, I believe. Articles 35 and 36, though, on the other hand, we may possibly know everything we need to know about those, unless somebody wants to discuss them further.
So what is different here? We're just stating again that if there were to be a marijuana dispensary, it would have to be in that district?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is a zoning,
plan.
creating a zone for the treatment center, for these centers, so that somebody can't just plunk one down on Main Street.
I move that we pass Articles 35 and 36.
Second.
Second, yeah.
Moved and seconded that we approve Articles 35 and 36 relating to the establishment, acceptance of the medical marijuana laws and the establishment of a zone for that purpose. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of Articles 35 and 36, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Okay, now,
Well, that's it.
we assigned some. I would say that since Dave has 27 through 31, that leaves 32 through 36, 5 articles as a nice logical block for somebody to take.
I can take that.
Should we,
go
but we
ahead.
haven't voted on all of them yet, right? I mean, does it make sense to,
Just get them, I mean, you know,
Okay.
if you don't feel comfortable not having voted, that's fine, but as far as, we know the subject of them, and
okay, okay,
we try to divide them into sort of contiguous blocks usually, so.
okay.
Unless somebody else feels strongly, I'm happy to take them.
Anybody want to take them away from Art? No? Okay. This way, to the extent we voted on them, you can get a nice head start on writing your explanations.
That's true, that's the advantage. No, now.
Yeah,
And
because these are all boilerplate, it's particularly easy to, right? I mean,
well, the boilerplate
Bulk
ones,
of the
I'm not
stuff.
even, I mean, we should assign them to somebody to read, but I'm going to pick up, as far as writing explanations, I'm picking up last year's stuff and just plopping it down again. We don't need to,
Sounds good.
Oh,
we don't need to change that language.
Seeing that on live
Sounds
TV.
efficient.
it's in the live TV.
But we do need somebody to read the things. So
Absolutely.
That's fine.
by tradition, the
Wait, you
chairman,
down at, what you mean, on the,
On the
at the
floor, yeah.
meeting?
yeah, by tradition, the chairman takes,
You guys write it, I'll read whatever you want me to.
That's right.
Yeah, the public is in the confidence in us.
I get 5 and 6 just because that's the way we always do it. And if I get those, I might as well get the, well, we have a designate, who's the designated transfer reader now?
capital reader.
Hmm?
Oh, transfer reader.
Yeah, who's our transfer specialist? Do we have
Oh,
one?
that's right.
No?
Since the retirement.
Wow, this will be earth-shattering.
Yeah, that's, somebody has to take that crown, the transfer crown.
I'll do transfers if you like.
Be the transfer man? Transfer man. That means you get the couple that go before it, too.
Can I have numbers, Pat?
Arlie gets 2, 3, and 4.
Thank you. You get 5 and 6?
I get 5 and 6.
Okay.
So what do we got? We got 7 up to 7 up to 27, so that's 7 through 19, that's 20 articles, yes? Who are we missing tonight? We're missing Rick. He probably will be gone.
Rick and,
Al.
Al.
Oh, right, of course, Al. So we should, we definitely need
I know
to,
he's standing right there.
we need to give Al a few here.
That was an
Who wants the capital stuff?
I don't care. I'll take whatever.
How
I'm
does,
not passionate about.
how does
any of
capital
them, so
things do for
sure.
you? Capital?
I'll be
Okay.
passionate about capital.
You'll take 7 through 10.
That passion may come at a cost of attending the capital committee hearings, just to,
Ruh-roh. Let's back up on that.
those
I think
hearings
Al
is an
would be
exaggeration.
perfect.
Right.
I don't think,
I can fill you in.
Okay.
I'm on the committee, I'm
Oh,
on the
good.
committee,
You're on
so
the
I'll.
capital committee,
I'll-
so-
Have minutes and
He's
all.
gonna back me up.
so you,
I'll fill it
So
in.
which one?
great. So you've got 7 through 10.
I'm not sure that really counts as passion, I gotta tell you.
Come on, Ollie, we're trying.
Anybody that can get passionate about
I've
accepting
delegated my
chapter
passion.
money,
Yes.
chapter
Yeah.
90 money. Or approving
that's
these
not chapter
revolving
90.
funds when we get to those.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're up, Angela's through 10, now we get to 11, which is Dave, that, oh no, you've already picked some, shoot. Those had your name written on them too, okay. So 11, who haven't we heard from tonight? Who would like to do 11?
This is gonna be a little.
11, 12, 13.
I hear the two
14.
Lisas
Oh, yeah.
have been keeping their heads down over there.
I can do 11. I don't have to go to another meeting to do it, though, do I?
I've been going to a ton of them, so I don't know, I have something on this, so
Yeah,
I'll.
why don't we, okay, Lisa?
I think
No, Dave.
Dave's gonna take 11?
Lisa's
gonna
gonna
take
Oh,
11?
give it to her.
He's gonna tell me what to
No,
write.
yeah.
Okay.
Lisa
What-
Lisa Keating, not,
Yes.
okay, not Lisa, okay. In which case, you should also take 13 and 14.
And 12, or no, we don't.
12 is a non-action
Yeah.
article. 14,
11 could be a little bit heavy lifting. I mean, there's typically KP,
Yeah.
there's usually some more noise around KP.
but her job is just to,
I just get it out there. Then they.
just to
then
motion
they-
it and
they-
to,
yeah, they
and to
fill in
say
the rest.
4 sentences
explain
of
the
why we
rationale.
vote for it, against it. She's done. Passion is optional.
Yeah, right, passion is definitely optional for KP.
All right. So Lisa goes up through 14.
All right, Lisa Carl.
I guess,
Oh, I do 14
we
too.
have a lot more to go, though. Well, no,
I'm
not
doing
not that
14
many.
as well, right?
Yep.
14,
15
we
through
got,
like 26.
yeah, Lisa, these are, the only one that's of any heavy lifting here is even modestly heavy lifting. Let's see, you've got 11, 12 is 13 is boilerplate, 14 is boilerplate, 15 and 16 are boilerplate. That would be a good, I don't know, how many would that give you, 5? That's a good place to stop. 15, eh?
Okay, so Lisa Keating's gonna take 11 through 15.
That all right with you, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay. And then 16, we got more boilerplate for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get to the stretch code one. So Lisa, other Lisa, you want to take 16 through 20?
Sure.
That gives you both Lisas one real article and
Yep,
3 or 4 pretend articles.
fair enough.
It's all been approved except for 20, so you could start writing right now.
Yeah, oh, that's the other advantage with
There you
these
go.
boilerplate articles. No
I
explanation.
know, right, exactly.
No
You've got
explanation
the,
needed. I just need from each of you just the one article that actually requires some,
Oh, so just
Discussion.
KP.
Yes.
just
Okay.
KP in your case, and just the,
French code.
just whatever the stretch code turns out to be from you. The others I've got from last year, they're the same every year.
Okay.
No need to do anything. Okay, so we're up to
21
up
now.
through 20.
21 through 26.
21 through
Who's got that? I don't know.
26, is it? That sounds
They're all
to me a lot
CPC.
like Al. Doesn't that
There
sound
you
a
go,
lot like
that's
Al?
Al.
Okay.
because 21 and 20, right, we're at 21, that's boilerplate, and 22 is boilerplate. And then he's got some real stuff. He's got a few real articles. Article 25 will be non-controversial.
You might want to see if, depending on whether he or Rick are here next week when CPC is, because those would be tough to do if you're not here for the presentation.
Right. Susan, can you
Confirm
make
that
sure Al is going
Al's
to be
gonna
here next week? Because we want to give him these CPC articles.
We haven't given any to Rick.
Rick's not gonna be here.
Rick is
Oh.
unlikely. Rick is taking a position as chief of police in
Guilford.
Guilford, New Hampshire.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
So what, when he'll be here, when he'll be going, we don't know for sure. But I think best to just leave him out of the planning for town meeting.
Yep.
To the extent we have his input at a meeting before then, great, but
Guilford.
will be,
How far
Up near Laconia.
oh,
So
that's
does
pretty.
he moved up there?
He won't be
He's
commuting
gonna
there.
live up there.
No, he
He's
won't
not
go
going to
there.
maintain his civic interest in Norfolk and commute.
Commute. Yeah. Keep his residence here to be on the advisory board.
With a spreadsheet, but
I think we assigned them all, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
All right, so we've got them all assigned, we've got 15 to 20 voted,
wow,
something like that,
go team.
I hope.
Okay.
That was the
Yep,
plan,
yep.
be somewhere in the 15 to
Yep.
20 range tonight.
I think starting at 6:30 was excellent.
Yeah, I have to
Makes all
agree.
the difference.
I do have to
Least
agree, if
it
we
was-
could all get here on time.
I know. Well,
I was
30 would be
actually here closer
perfect.
to on time, but I stuck my head in and heard the ZBA, and I'm like, oh, gosh, it's zoning board. So looking around the building for you.
I
We've
personally,
heard
I-
that excuses so many times.
oh.
I even
I
texted
came from
Angela, I'm like,
Burlington.
where are you? You're not in the same place.
The other nice thing about, a couple nice things about 6:30 is, one, people getting here,
Are we all done here, Pat?
not quite.
Oh, all right.
Do we have any minutes?
to approve.
No, Marion has them for next
Okay.
week.
Okay, so I don't think I have anything else.
I move to adjourn.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? We are adjourned.